Okay.
Okay, thanks so much.
For walking us back from the brink of an avoidable, needless, and costly shutdown.
Republicans have tried to block the bill because of opposition to President Biden's vaccine mandates. The local school superintendent
If you cannot get him by 6:10,
accused of killing 4 students at his high school was called to the office. Discipline was warranted. Mike Bouchard is the Oakland County.
Reverend Tisha Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
At all for either bullying or problem behavior or questionable behavior until the day before.
Alec Baldwin says someone is responsible for the deadly shooting on the set of his movie in New Mexico, but it's not him. Baldwin told ABC's George Stephanopoulos he didn't pull the trigger.
So you have this cold 45, you just hold
the hammer as far back as I can without cocking the actual.
And you're holding onto the hammer.
I'm holding that. I'm just showing her. How about that? Does that work? You see that? Do you see that? She goes, yeah, that's good. I let go of the hammer. Bang, the gun goes.
Cinematographer Helena Hutchins was killed. Baldwin says if he felt he was responsible, he might have killed himself. Ukraine's defense minister estimates Russia has amassed more than 94,000 troops near their borders and says there's a probability of a large-scale escalation in late January. This is AP News. The Justice Department started an inquiry in August involving Andrew Cuomo.
A U.S. Justice Department civil inquiry into sexual harassment claims against former New York Governor Thursday as a result of public records requests by several news organizations. The office of current Governor Kathy Hochul said it hired a law firm in October to handle matters related to ongoing investigations inherited from the Cuomo administration. One of those matters was an investigation by the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division and the U.S. Attorney's Office in Brooklyn. Cuomo resigned in August after New York Attorney General Letitia James concluded he had sexually harassed 11 women. Cuomo acknowledged making comments to some women that made them uncomfortable, but he denies any sexual harassment or inappropriate touching. I'm Mike Gracia.
France announced the signing of an $18 billion armaments mega contract for the sale of 80 of its upgraded warplanes to the United Arab Emirates. Ed Donahue, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 Chicago traffic update.
I-80 eastbound traffic.
But if you cannot get him up, queue up Dr. Knighton, please, okay?
Okay.
Just have everybody ready so I can get going.
Get decent size back on right now. Traffic is a little bit heavy on the inbound Stevens from Cicero to Pulaski. Trip time between the Veterans Memorial Tollway to Saba Lakeshore Drive is 23 minutes, half on 21. On Ryan, traffic is slow first in the express lanes, 35th Chinatown feeder. And in fact, the express lane delays downtown around Pershing at the locals gets heavy at 35th. It's 13 minutes from 95th Street to downtown Chicago. Outbound 11, some ramp closures are wrapping up along with roadwork 71st to 83rd. That's traffic. I'm Jim Talamonte.
Tom Hartman.
It sure looks to me like this was an attempt to end democracy in America. And if one of these neo-fascists gets into the White House in 2024, I don't even think it's a question if they'll try to repeat this. I think it's a given.
Hey, everybody.
Radio program. Weekdays,
We're going to be talking about this justice case off a couple of days ago. Well, first of all, I hope that you all are having a great day. And I hope that you will have a really restful, wonderful weekend. How about that? So that said, we're going to be talking about the case Ethan Crumbley. Thank you very much. Pastor Hatch?
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, good morning, good morning. You know, this is a quick 5 minutes. It goes quickly. But that having been said, I'm really glad you're with us. But mark your clock, okay?
You must call now.
All right, will do.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you're with us today.
We're on in 30.
Okay, thank you.
1-800-473-3993. Call now and you'll receive a free American Coin Collector's bonus package of 4 free. Pre-order. Call 1-800-473-3993 now to secure your 1881p Gold Liberty coins before they sell out.
So
That's
we'll be talking about the Jussie Smollett case.
1-800-473-3993.
Jussie Smollett, you know, with no,
5
we
seconds.
just come off of 2 high-profile court cases where there were cameras. We could see the judge's behaviors. We could see everything.
Change the world, change the world. Can change the world. We can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world.
Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It is Friday, December 3rd, 2021, just 3 weeks away from Christmas. You know, I'm the Christmas girl. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love this season. I really, really do, for so many reasons. It's a joy to be with you today, sending all of our love to our Jewish and Muslim brothers and sisters who are in their holy seasons as well. God bless you, everybody, today. It's good to be with you. We're going to be talking about the Jussie Smollett case. We were interrupted a few days ago, but we have come off of 2 really high-profile cases, trying the men who murdered Ahmaud Arbery, the McMichaels and Mr. Bryan, and Kyle Rittenhouse's case. In those 2 high-profile cases, we got a sense of how the system works because we had cameras in the courtroom. This judge disallowed cameras in the courtroom, and things really reached a peak yesterday where we don't know what happened. We do know that the defense is charged that the judge is behaving most unfairly and has been insulting, but we can't see it. So we've got to talk about this because anytime a case this high profile, we can't see it. I think that is something that we need to, I think that's dangerous. I'll just put it out there. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. It's not transparent. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. And if someone as high profile as Jussie Smollett, if you don't hear about the records of the police who investigated his case, and their records are very questionable, if you can't see the trial, if the defense are not allowed to ask certain questions to look at the integrity of these 2 brothers who allegedly beat him, 2 brothers who were facing some problems with the police until the 47th hour. They have 48 hours to make up their minds. There's a lot that we need to ask some questions today. We need to tease this out. We need to look at Ethan Crumbley, this boy. Yes, he's 15 years old and he's a boy. And I hope that the same grace and the same protection that we extend to guilty white children, we will extend to non-guilty Black and brown children. How about that? Let them have their childhoods too. But his parents were in this. Again, the parents were in this. What is going on? Got to talk about that today. And then, of course, the latest on COVID-19 and all these other viruses and illnesses out here. So let's get right to it. I want you to meet me here on WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio. My brothers and sisters to the north in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and meet my morning stars. Hey, A. King from Memphis, and Linda and Dave. That's right, from the north, and everybody else. We're on the Santita Jackson Show channel, so please get on over there on YouTube, or you can meet me at the Santita Jackson and Friends page here on the Santita Jackson and Friends on Facebook, but also WCPT 820 is streaming me as well. So let's get right to it, everybody. Let's get to some of these headlines. In Chicago, it's going to be a warm day. 47 degrees in December, everybody, and showers. No snow. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 44 degrees, partly cloudy. The Dow closed up while it rebounded very nicely, 617 points yesterday. The NASDAQ closed up 127 points, and the S&P 500 closed up 64 points. In the NBA tonight, the Timberwolves will be facing off against the Nets, and last night the Bulls were triumphant over the Knicks 119-115. And there was an NFL game last night. The Cowboys over the Saints. The Cowboys 27, the Saints 17. In hockey, the Wild 5 and the Devils 2, and Chicago 4 and the Capitals 3. Hey, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Chicago triumphant in sports last night. President Joe Biden has expressed optimism for the future of the country during the national Christmas tree lighting last night, telling the American people that we have so much ahead of us. So God bless us all, everybody, this Christmas season. New, stricter COVID-19 testing requirements for all travelers coming to the United States are set to take effect on Monday, regardless of your vaccination status, everybody. The new rules will require travelers coming to the United States to test negative 1 day before departure, instead of up to 3 days before entering the country. This shift in policy, which President Biden announced yesterday, alongside a slate of new steps to combat COVID-19, underscores the potential threat posed by the newly discovered Omicron variant. Although it has been shown that the Delta variant appears to be harsher and more dangerous. We'll continue to look, and we'll talk with Dr. Knighton and perhaps Dr. Deborah Furholden about that today. Congress averted a government shutdown last night, everybody, when both chambers voted to pass a stopgap bill to extend funding through mid-February. It came after party leaders brokered a deal to overcome GOP opposition to vaccine mandates. Build Back Better. Democratic Senator Joe Manchin is casting skepticism in conversations with senators that the Build Back Better bill can pass the Senate this year, potentially delivering a blow to the Senate majority leader's push to get the bill approved by Christmas. Wow. Immigration, the Trump era border program, known as Remain in Mexico, is set to relaunch on Monday. So that's not going to change, everybody. Wow. What do you think about that? 773-763-9278, 773-763, WCPT. And the United States ranks as the world's leading contributor of plastic waste and needs a national strategy to combat the issue, according to a congressionally mandated report released on Tuesday. The National Academy of Sciences said the developing plastic waste crisis has been building for decades. The success of the 20th century miracle of invention of plastics has also produced a global scale deluge of plastic waste, seemingly everywhere we'll look, and the United States is leading, unfortunately, in that particular space. So everybody, those are some of our headlines for today. So let's get right to it. We've got Pastor Marshall Hatch from this beautiful cathedral on the west side of Chicago, New Mount Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church. I'm so glad that you're with us today. What's the good news, Pastor?
Good morning, Santita, and good morning to the radio family. Listen, we're grateful to God for the privilege of sharing. This week, this Sunday, of course, is a recognition of what is called Advent, for the coming of the Lord. Those of us of the Christian faith, we call Christmas, the coming of Christ, that day when we believe that God enters into God's creation in the form of a creature, that God becomes like us so that we can become like God, that miracle of incarnation, of divinity in human flesh. And so it's a holy season. We call it holidays. These are holy days for us. And one of the themes of this season is waiting, learning to wait. And of course, the Simeon is one in the Gospel of Luke, in the New Testament book. Luke, who is an older man who is in Jerusalem, and it says that he's waiting, anticipating that he's given a promise that he will not die until he sees this consolation of Israel, this incarnation, this miracle of God appearing and intervening on our behalf. And so we learn the discipline in this season of waiting, and waiting is a spiritual discipline. You see, I mean, how many bad decisions do we make because we have not learned to wait, because we've been impatient? And that impatience, that is a sign of immaturity, because patience is a sign of spiritual maturity. It means that we understand that God is in charge of both time and timeliness, that God controls the timetable. And so we are taught as a spiritual discipline in a season like this with Simeon, and there was another woman named Anna in that chapter. We know she waited. She was 84 years old, and all of her life she believed that this intervention would come, that God would come. And so, we learn to wait just quickly. When we learn to wait, we learn to wait patiently.
Mm-hmm.
Psalm 40 says, I waited patiently on the Lord. It just means that, just because it's not yet does not mean no, that I'm not filled with anxiety, but I believe that, God is in charge. I'm not. And so I learned to wait. And then we learn to wait joyfully, meaning, just to enjoy the journey of waiting. Sometimes we miss so much joy because we don't think that we will be fulfilled or feel satisfied until we get what we've been waiting for. But there's a way to enjoy the journey of life, to enjoy every day, even while we wait, and then to wait finally expectantly, meaning that, listen, we work while we wait, just simply wait in inaction, but we wait with expectation, and we work. And I'm remembering the family of Ahmaud Arbery who had to wait so long, but they worked while they wait. And of course, when it comes to God, listen, the wait is always worth it when God gives what God gives. It's always going to be worth it. Anything worthwhile.
Yes, it is.
Be worth waiting for. Amen.
Yes, it is.
That's what our word is today. Wait on the Lord.
I needed that.
Amen. Yeah.
I needed that. I think everybody does, because we do grow impatient. But our elders, they are patient, and they tell us to wait. Shh, be quiet. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. Hold on. It's not time yet. I like that in them. Pastor?
And you mentioned the elders. Isn't it interesting that those with
Yes.
the less time have the most patience?
Absolutely.
And
Less over
the
here.
more time are the most patient, the irony of that.
Less time over here, more time over yonder. That's how they see it. So God
Amen.
bless them. The new Mount Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church here in Chicago, you need to get on over there. Great service. Also, it's an historic place. You will see the largest representations of African-American civil rights heroes represented in stained glass in that cathedral. And it is a cathedral. Please get over there and see it. What is your address, Pastor?
4301 West Washington Boulevard.
All right, all right. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I love you. Please give my love to the First Lady and your beautiful family. Everybody, I want to hear your voices now. Call me at 773-763-9278. Ethan Crumbly, we're talking about the 15-year-old who just walked in and methodically started shooting to kill his classmates and anyone in his line of vision. What do you think about that? And what about the Jussie Smollett case? We're going to be talking about those cases today. But first up, we've got Dr. Deborah Furr Holden. So glad that she is with us today. And Dr. Shanita Knighton, as we talk about COVID-19, whether it's Delta or Omicron. We have these two variants that are figuring quite prominently in our lives today. Even Dr. Deborah Furr Holden, as we see that there's a Harvard study that has declared a winner between Pfizer and Moderna. Apparently, a team of researchers from the Harvard Medical School say that the Moderna vaccine is slightly better than Pfizer. Isn't that interesting? Dr. Deb?
I would be curious to know what that is based on, because I know the kind of data that I would want to see to be able to make that kind of assessment. I don't see that we've been collecting it. So I take that. I would take that one with a grain of salt.
Okay, even though it comes out of Harvard and whatnot.
Hey, I'm with you. So easily seduced by an institutional name. Let's just be real clear. What's behind all those institutions are people. People. And realize the same thing with the CDC. We hear the CDC and everybody go, ooh. Guess what? A lot of those folks at the CDC some come from institutions like the Harvard and the Hopkins, and some of those people come out of, other types of places that have very limited experience but get their sea legs at the CDC. Don't be seduced by the institution. Look at what the report says. Look at what they're basing that statement on. What I always tell people is give me the data. Let me draw my own conclusions.
And you know what? I think
people are quick to want to give you the way to think or the way to feel or, to declare the winner on your behalf. No, just give me the data. Let me make my own mind up.
Which is what people increasingly are doing that. I mean, they use the health records of just under 440,000 U.S. veterans, an increasing number of whom are not getting the vaccine. Most of them did not want it, so that's very interesting. But they found that Pfizer had a roughly 27% higher chance of people who had a 27% higher chance of getting sick from COVID-19 during the 24-week follow-up period to their first dose. That's the first time I've ever heard anything like that. And a 70% greater chance of being hospitalized when the Alpha variant was dominant. I think I heard you, Dr. Knighton, you were about to say something?
Oh, I was. Good morning.
Good morning.
I was just going to say, so this is where I talk about messaging, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have to remember that it was just not too long ago that when somebody, literally, listeners was calling in and they were saying, well, what is the best vaccine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so literally scientists would say, oh, well, whichever one is available. But now y'all want to start coming up with data and start cherry picking which one people should get when the overall message was just to get vaccinated just in general. And this has always been my concern, is that if this is something that literally we're going to do, I know that y'all are coming out with 3 vaccine candidates, but it's like, why hadn't we narrowed it down to 1 to begin with? Because now we're in a situation where we want to talk about what's more effective, what's not. We're in a situation now where individuals are being told to get boosters. We being told that it's okay now to mix and match. And this is like, honestly, to what you said, the American people or just people in general, which they have, is doing their own homework. And as a result of now being able to do their own homework, they're discovering even more now, okay, well, yes, while these vaccines can help me, I do understand that they have limitations. And that is the message that should have been shared from the beginning, is that, hey, we don't know which one you're going to get. We don't know the effectiveness of them in the real world, which is what I've been saying, is that we are watching science unfold on a live stage. Like, these are just things we could have been more transparent about, and I don't think that we would be having these issues. I also, just like how I keep saying that the people was given a crash course in infection prevention overnight, people were also and are still also trying to be given a crash course in pathogens overnight, right? The fact that it's like, oh, well, yeah, the Alpha variant, the Beta variant, the Delta variant. I can go through the whole Greek alphabet. And so it's interesting because now we're at the place of where people are more so concerning themselves with the strains than just saying, okay, well, the bottom line is this going to be here and I need to figure out how to prevent it. And I think that this messaging of getting stuck on the wrong stuff is just distraction.
Dr. Deb? Because, now we're beginning to hear, instead, they told us 3 days you should take the test before you travel. Now they're going to make it regardless of vaccine status, Dr. Deb, regardless of whether you have gotten the shots or not. Now they're saying that you must get tested a day before. What we first need to know is whether you have COVID-19 or not. Should we extend that into the rest of our lives, particularly as we go into this Christmas season? Because me, I get tested before I go see my family, because it's so many of us. But if it's just one, I don't get tested out. I get tested the day before. So what is our takeaway from this? Because, it's like you have one set of standards when we're flying, another set of standards when we're in the workplace, another set of the standards are just all over the place.
Well, we're a society that has different standards for different things and different ages for different things. And so that's not entirely new. This notion of follow the science, I like this. The problem is we don't take our own advice. So if we're looking at the science of it, what you really want is, and I don't even really understand because the rapid test, those things take 10 minutes, like 10 minutes to take it and get the results. I don't understand why they're not doing that as a part of the TSA check-in process if it matters that much, honestly. And then having flown myself and done international travel during COVID, the way they check it is a joke. It would not be very hard if you were ill-intentioned to sort of get around that process. It really is not that hard. I went with 5 women on a trip, and we all got a COVID test result emailed to us. It would have been nothing for me to just put my name where somebody else's name was and flash that up as my negative test result. I'm just saying, like, this system is not really conducive for the kind of surveillance and protection that it was designed for. You know, if it really mattered, we would just be testing people right there at the airport. It's 10 minutes. You know, you go through the airport, especially for international travel, and you waiting in line more than 10 minutes just to get through, you know, TSA and customs and all of that stuff. So there are better ways to do this if our real goal is to stop people who are potentially infected from traveling and moving about and infecting others. The other thing is, if you look at the science of this, right, and I'm not saying we shouldn't do it because you basically use the best tools you have, right? So if you need an Allen wrench and you don't have an Allen wrench, you might have to, you know, figure out how to make a Phillips, you know, wrench work. Like you just, or some other tool. Like you just have to use the tools you have. But these tests will basically, like a rapid test, for example, which tests for antigen. So the antigen tests are testing for what's on the outside of the virus, the viral molecule, and the PCR tests are testing for what's on the inside. The PCR tests tend to have better sensitivity, i.e. ability to detect a true positive earlier in the disease than do the antigen test. And that's not all the science of why, that's just a fact. Okay. So let's say
1 minute.
I was exposed on a Saturday. I go to an event, I'm exposed on a Saturday. And then I'm traveling on that Monday. Likely, if I take one of these rapid tests, that test is going to come back negative. That's what's predictable. If you look at these metrics, I won't have accumulated enough viral load to come up positive on one of these rapid tests.
I got 30.
When I take my test, it comes back negative,
30.
and I fly. Even though I'm negative on the test, I'm potentially shedding virus and could still expose people. Does that mean don't give me the test? No, because that's the best that we have. But people need to understand, even that's not
15.
100%. We need prevention. On top of all these other things,
10.
we need to stay up with prevention.
Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you, if you are around President Biden, regardless of your vaccination status, you must take a test the day before you see him, and Vice President Harris as well. Think about that, everybody. Think about it. Let's talk about Ethan Crumbley and what happened in up in Michigan at Oxford High School. How is it that school administrators met with his parents and teachers expressed concern, and he was allowed to come back in and start shooting everybody deliberately, killing people? Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show, and of course, Jesse Smollett's trial at the top of the hour. Back in just a minute. Ooh, Dr. Deb. Ooh. Let's talk about all these vaccines that we need to take next week. We're being inundated on television now with advertisements for them. And I think that we need to talk about that. Just given what we're doing. Dr. Deb?
Yeah, and we need to talk. Yeah, sure.
Oh,
and
okay.
we need to talk about, I see the media is now on this new thing telling everybody that Omicron has milder symptoms.
They're saying it all the time. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this is so crazy. Mind you, it's really disgusting because they're like, we've got 5 cases in the U.S. I'm like, no, y'all have identified 5 cases. We have way more than 5 cases. We don't do the kind of genomic surveillance of COVID cases to actually be able to answer that question. But it's like saying you got one roach in your house.
Oh.
And don't nobody got no one roach.
Ever.
Never. That ain't how roaches roll.
Ever. Ever. No.
And that's true though. Like my concern is like the whole fact don't be concerned. Then it's like, oh y'all, we need to be concerned. And it's the same way when the CDC rolled back the cleaning guidelines right after the vaccine started being rolled out. Or started saying take off your mask. Like that's crazy to me.
Well, they don't want you to be concerned, they want you to be frightened. Because when you're frightened, you don't look at science, you look at compliance. And that's my problem with all of this. And that's not political. That is, that really does come down to, that's why the fact that the corporate media, thank you so much, continue to say that this has been politicized. No, this has been personalized. And they need to stop it. They need to have you on television and on radio telling us how that we can invent infections. And they need to have you, Dr. Deb, telling us what we need to do generally, what the policies ought to be. Oh, I'm just disgusted.
Rochelle Riley's on the line.
Okay, Rochelle Riley.
Hello.
Hey, Rochelle Riley, brilliant author. She was with the Detroit Free Press. And now she is, well, I'm not going to have you, have you here as the author, because, being the director of arts and culture for the city of Detroit. I love Detroit. That's my city.
And I'm so glad that you do.
I love that place. I feel so at home there. I really do. But Dr. Deborah Verholden, you've met Dr. Deborah Verholden before from Michigan State University.
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
Right.
She's brilliant.
Brilliant. And Dr. Shanina Knighton, clinical research scholar at Case Western Reserve University, registered nurse. They're both absolutely brilliant. You all need to bring them into Detroit. And because one of the things...
I meant to call Deborah after that last time.
Please, and Dr. Knighton as well. She's an infection preventionist. No one has talked to us about how to prevent infection. Dr. Deb, I was about to call her Dr. Deb, but Dr. Verholden bring to us who can help us to get our way through this crisis. This is before we even had, the vaccines, the shots. And she said, I found this young woman, I never even knew that, an infection preventionist. I didn't know about the field. And there are lots of little things that she tells us. I'm sorry, Paul?
Back in 30.
Okay, do we have Attorney Hoffler?
Attorney Hoffler's here.
Okay, thank you.
I'm here.
Hey, how you doing? All right.
Good
Dr.
morning.
Deb and
15.
Dr. Knighton, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Hi, Michelle. Hi, CK.
If you all want to listen to all the craziness, stay right here.
Coming back in 5.
Hold on.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want you to call me today, 773-763-9278. You can text me there as well, 773-763-9278. We're going to be talking about the Jussie Smollett case. Want to hear your thoughts? Because so much is happening there. There are no cameras. We can't see anything. Okay. So that shut down the conversation on that. But what about Ethan Crumbley, this 15-year-old who deliberately walked into his school to kill people? Now they had been meeting with him and his parents because his behavior had disturbed at least a couple of his teachers. But he said, there's something wrong here. Something's not right with this boy. And so his parents came in. And he had been apparently on social media showing very freely himself a gun that his father had just bought. That having been said, even though the teachers were disturbed by his behavior, even as after he and his parents met with school administrators, they let him come back. And that's when he shot and killed 4 people and wounded 7 others. What do you think about that, everybody? And of course, the corporate media called him a boy at 15. And at 15, you are a child, but something's not right here, everybody. Something is not right. Something is not right. And so I said, let me go to Rochelle Riley. Rochelle Riley, longtime reporter with the Detroit Free Press, but now she is the author of two books that I think you need to get: The Burden and That They Lived. The Burden and That They Lived. And of course, we've got attorney C.K. Hoffler, immediate past president of the National Bar Association, chair of Rainbow Push, a brilliant, brilliant lawyer. Let me just start with you, Rochelle Riley, because they closed schools. They said, one of the press reports said that at least 60 schools have been closed in Michigan, so that they could have a deep cleaning. But as you look at the corporate media, they're also saying that kids are frightened to death. And then you have a lot of other kids who are making similar threats similar to the ones that Ethan Crumbley made. Who is Ethan Crumbley? Who are his parents? And it's interesting. The prosecutors are now going after his parents. What's going on, Renee? I mean, she's not Renee, Rochelle. What's going on? I'm looking at Renee here on my chat line.
That's
What is
okay.
this?
Let me first say that my heart and prayers go out to the parents and families of those children and that teacher. And this is what people need to understand. This is the deadliest shooting at a school since 2018, but the 32nd on a campus since August 1st of this year, 32. We have got to stop pretending like these things are not happening. This is an American phenomenon, an American disaster. They found videos on his cell phone made the night before the shooting. He talked about shooting up the school. And his backpack, he had the gun to shoot up the school. You had kids who told their parents they weren't going to school because they knew something was going to happen. You've got two teachers who are telling school officials there's something going on with this kid. This is not a Second Amendment issue. This is a safety issue. And people who are not responsible for their guns should be held accountable for their guns. And if their guns are used in a crime, they should face the same charges as the shooter. This kid literally put a picture of this 9mm Sig Sauer on his Instagram account saying, I got my baby today. There were signs. There were like flashing lights that something needed to be done. And if you've got a kid who is scaring people, it's okay for you to check him out. It's okay for you to check his backpack. It's okay for you to talk to his parents, who, by the way, have some real issues. His mom has posted things on social media that made it clear that they needed to check him out long before.
But Rochelle, wait a minute. How is it that he can walk around? His peers think that there's something wrong with him. His teachers think that there's something wrong with him. But his neighbors say he's a good boy. They're good people. Whoa.
We know why.
No, break it down for me, because I'm trying to figure out how it is that you have all of these people who are sociopaths, and they are given free rein.
This is where it begins.
Talk to me.
This is where it begins when kids go to school. Black boys and girls are seen as threatening, and you wait to see when they're going to do something. White kids are seen as kids, and you're stunned when they do something. This has been true for so long. We know it. We don't do anything about it. And quite frankly, for him to be in the office because of concerns raised by two teachers, and they didn't do anything except have a conversation and said no discipline was necessary. No discipline was necessary, but sending him home for some mental health treatment would have been necessary. That is what we face in America all the time. Black kids get suspended for looking at you wrong. White kids get, oh, he's having a bad day. Let's let him go back so he can shoot 11 people.
And kill 4. Unbelievable.
And kill 4. 4 kids. 4 kids gone. One who had gotten literally accepted into several colleges on full scholarships, who will never see her dreams. These parents are devastated. On top of that, there's no school. We already have no school because of the pandemic. Now there's no school for all those other kids who knew something was wrong and now cannot be educated.
C.K. Hoffler, what should the prosecutors are now looking at the parents. They're looking at Ethan Crumbley's parents. What do you think about that? And what happened
here? Good morning to everyone. The prosecutors should look at the parents. The prosecutors should look at the school. And the reason why I say that is, I don't know if everyone knows this, but minutes before as I understand it, he shot and killed those children and an adult and injured so many people and terrorized a school. He was meeting with school officials and had, they believe, the gun in his backpack in the office with the officials and his parents. They understood he was deeply disturbed. This had not been the first time. So, notice. The school had notice, but the parents certainly had notice. The father purchased a gun. They had social media. They knew there was notice. When there is notice, and when I'm talking about holding people accountable, I'm saying holding them accountable in a criminal court, because remember we talked about two different paths, but as well in civil cases. There would be wrongful death lawsuits or injury lawsuits filed by the families of the deceased, as well as those who were injured and terrorized, against the school potentially, but especially against that family, against him and the family. And people could say, well, they don't have any money. I'm not concerned about whether they have money. If you want accountability, if you want there to be ultimately change, you've got to press and force the issue. And I don't think the school was without fault. When you have notice of these disturbances, these issues, you can't just say, ha, well, let's send him back to class and hope for the best. No, he showed signs that he was a sociopath at a minimum. It doesn't matter what his age was. So at that moment, the school's duty is to protect the children, the faculty, and everybody in that school, the janitor, the housekeeping staff, the cooks, everybody, because you have a dangerous sociopath. You make a record. You've got truancy officers in all these schools, and they certainly do go after the black children. So the schools should also be held accountable, perhaps at a different level than the parents, but I wouldn't let them off the hook. And I'm not surprised that the prosecutors are looking at the parent.
Unbelievable. And, and the mother has left a footprint. She sent a letter to President Trump praising him for protecting her Second Amendment rights. That is her right. Mm-hmm. That having been said, we're having our messages tracked on our telephones. You have Black Lives Matter being spied upon, but these white supremacists are let go. This is crazy. And there's no equivalency there. None. And let me go to some of these callers. Jim from Chicago, how you doing?
Good morning, Santita. It's amazing to me that a shooting on a movie set gets all the attention for 2 months, an absolute accident. We have deliberate shootings every day in the country. It's never brought up on the news. We ignore it. We ignore the gun violence in the country. But a movie set shooting, they got Baldwin on for an hour last night with Stephanopoulos. Mm-hmm.
And he accepted no responsibility. You held a gun. What are you talking about?
No, but it's not the point. The point that was an accidental shooting. But
no, it was an accident. But you know what bothered me, Jim? Stay right there with me. It did bother me, and I like the Baldwins a lot, but that has nothing to do with this. He refused to accept any responsibility for it. No. Had you not been holding that gun,
But all the kids, they should have it every night. Gun violence should be a national priority. Mm-hmm. It just should be. Anyway, that Mansion character down there, that first pastor, God love him, he's talking about patience. Well, we have to have patience with this guy. Anyway, Santita, have a good morning. Thank you.
All right, sweetie, have a good weekend, Jim. It's always great to hear your voice. Howard from Los Angeles, up real early. Thank you for being with us out there in L.A. Howard, what's on your mind today?
Oh, yeah, I need a shrink. I need to talk to somebody on this madness that's going on. I'd like to connect it to Rittenhour and this recent shooting. It's kind of weird that parents were involved in this. And the Rittenhour case, the mother wasn't even brought to trial. She had nothing to do with it. Why she escaped? You got to check out these parents too. And what I've been hearing, the father bought the gun and he didn't secure his firearm. He bought a gun. I guess he looked like he bought it for his son. So I have a bunch of kids around here, and I'm scared to get a gun for that reason. Also, when I was about 7 years old, I almost got killed in a gun accident. So I have things about guns that goes my mind. I was in the service and things, but I was in the Air Force, so we'd handle too many weapons. But you got to connect the dots. What's wrong with these parents? If this guy was sitting in the principal's office, like you guys saying, he had been a black kid, he'd been expelled for looking at somebody wrong. These white kids going each other away and nothing's done. What about that killing down there in Florida about 2018 where the guy just walked in and started blowing people away? And then again, on that particular case that bothers me, the security guard was hiding around with the students. He should have been the first one out there. And I think he's being prosecuted for cowardice or something he should be. He didn't do his job. So it's America got this thing about guns and things, and the reason why is it's a racial issue. I think in history, I might not be able to see it, but people going to rise up against the system, and then white people become a white minority, so they try to protect their own. So that's a little issue too. And this guy was in the principal's office. Why did they search his backpack there? I don't know.
I don't know why they let him back into class. I mean, Howard, you don't need a shrink. And you don't need a drink. You know what's going on. Now, you're not crazy. Okay.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, sweetie. We got to pull Howard back off the edge this morning. It's all right, sweetie. Call me at 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. Rochelle Riley, formerly of the Detroit Free Press. Brilliant, brilliant author. You need to get her 2 books, The Burden and That They Lived. I wonder if it happened in Detroit, how this would have been handled. You tell me.
Let me tell you where this doesn't happen. Detroit is a predominantly black city with school protocols and metal detectors at the high schools because people understand that guns are a problem. I know people don't like to hear that phrase because, guns don't kill people, people kill people. People can't kill people if they don't have guns, and many of them having them illegally. What you've got is a situation where this has been a problem with white kids for over a decade now, starting from, there were many before Columbine, but starting with Columbine, where this became the way for kids to act out their frustrations or to take something out on the kids who made them feel bad. Every school official worth their salt knows which of these kids are the ones who have some mental issues. They know the ones that are bullied. They know the ones who walk around in all black, as this kid did, and it's very quiet, and kids are afraid of them. If you've got kids who are telling teachers that I'm afraid and something's going to happen, and the teachers tell the principal, but because that kid is white, they go, oh, well, he's 15, so it's just hormones, or they don't make those kinds of excuses. And I know this sounds, there will be people who talk about the race card as if the race card is real. I play the race card gladly, like an ace, because it's absolutely true. If this had been a black kid and you had kids going to the principal and going to the teachers and saying, I'm really afraid of this kid, I think he's going to do something, you better believe the situation would have been handled differently. This is a problem that has to be resolved. This is a problem that is upheld by the NRA, and this is a problem that if we don't stop, hundreds more kids will be shot. 32nd incidents just in August in 4 months. 11 more people shot, 4 of them kids, because we don't want to do anything to violate people's rights to own a gun without making sure that they pay for the crimes that those guns commit.
Call me at 773-763-9278. Matt Soul says, if I was the parents, CK, I would sue the parents. I would also sue the school for letting the sociopath into the school. The gun is designed to kill people. What do you say to that? I mean, who is anyone responsible for this? Is anyone culpable here?
Well, Santita, just like you and I disagree. Disagree on this, as you know. No, it's okay. I was just going to say you and I disagree on this because the Second Amendment was written to make sure that the King of England, King George, could not come over and take the country back. It gave people the right to form militias to protect their homes. Guns were not designed to be given to 15-year-olds as toys.
But we don't disagree on that, Michelle.
Okay. But let me finish.
Okay.
I do believe that there should be some limits as to how it works and some stricter rules as to how to get them. If you've got folks who have a troubled child in their home, and you know, because you can find out, you're going to have to restrict how many guns they can have. Every one of these shootings has had some sense in the past that there was something wrong with somebody in the household, but you're going to let that household have guns, and then they're going to go and shoot up, you know, a school full of kindergartners, or go and shoot up a high school because somebody didn't like them. There has to be more accountability and responsibility on the front end. We don't do much of any kind of check for somebody to buy guns. This kid's father was an unemployed tech, and his mom a real estate broker. But when you read their language, you see the stuff they've written, like the letter she wrote to Donald Trump, those people should not have guns.
But, you know, I think we don't disagree. My point was never about that, because I don't think that children should have access to guns. That having been said, to protect your home and all of that, absolutely. But the more, when you have a gun in your home, the more likely it will be used because it's there, and the more likely somebody can get hurt or killed. You have to think about that. That having been said, I'm very clear on the origins of our Second Amendment. I get that. What I'm talking about is something else. We have a deeper problem. Dr. King was talking about the violence in our society, the bombs that we drop overseas that explode over here. That's my issue. Because we have not made the connection between the fact that we believe in war. We don't believe in diplomacy and peace. We don't do that. And all this warring, this posture that we have, we're the biggest war machine in the world. You think we're seeing the kickback here. When we talk about these shootings in these schools all over the country, they have junior ROTC programs, junior ROTC programs, and they do target practice in the schools.
But Santita, let me say one other thing, and this is very important, because people think that we're nostalgic and want those times past where you couldn't see certain things on television. Kids couldn't see certain movies. Now, between the internet and lack of parenting and just the prevalence of violence, kids are watching people get shot and their heads blown up all the time. People are seeing types of violence, and kids are seeing the type of violence that we were never even allowed to see when we were kids, which means they have become inured to any type of violence being a bad thing. It's just a part of their lives now. Because we have lost control for the sake of freedom.
Look at what we do as we pull our children into the military. And I am the granddaughter of veterans. That is, I am not anti-military at all, but I am pro-peace. How about that? I don't want another shot to be fired around the world for any reason. And we're not trying to save democracy. We're trying to get other people's oil and resources. Let's be very clear on that. And it's become a cancer on our own society. You have people who are leaving these drone programs in our military because they're like, this is not a game. I'm killing people. There is moral injury here. That's what I'm seeing. Because we act like people in Afghanistan and all over the world don't cry when we drop a bomb on them or when we kill them by accident. Oops. Come on, Rochelle.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, we have to dig deeper. Dig deeper.
This is who we've become. This is who we've become as America. We have allowed it. We have glorified it. We literally have watched our kids have no protections. And you can't always count on parents. Everybody can birth a child, but everybody's not a parent. You try to count on parents, and then look what happened in this case. At some point, we have to take responsibility for what we have created because we don't want to say no to anything.
Oh, he was parented. He just wasn't well parented. Okay. Because they think they're right.
Santita?
Yes,
I don't think he was parented at all.
No, I think he was parented. He just wasn't well parented because they think they're doing the right thing. They really do. It's just crazy.
Can I?
Yes, jump in.
I just connect a dot that nobody wants to connect, and it's a subliminal thing that smacks me in the face. So when a jury speaks, I listen. That's the end of the discussion for me. When a jury speaks, I'll talk about what coulda, woulda, shoulda, but when a jury speaks, the jury speaks. And in our system, that's it. And we can debate all we want, but the jury sat and watched the evidence. The verdict in the Kyle Rittenhouse case, and I'm connecting this dot, that's not the reason why this happened. But I do believe that it empowered, emboldened those who were predisposed towards this level of anarchy and craziness and murderous tendencies to feel empowered to do these things. Because there were images that they saw day in and day out of Kyle Rittenhouse on the street. That was, you talk about what was in the media. That was in the media every day, glorified. So I don't know why anyone should be surprised. We're holding our breath. And kids do get frustrated. There are a lot of kids who have psychiatric and psychological challenges. And what they are exposed to today certainly doesn't help. They can get everything on the internet and on their phones. And I'm a parent. You can't control as much as you like to. You cannot control 24/7 what they see, what they do, and what they hear, no matter how great of a parent you are. In this case, there were clear signs that this 15-year-old was falling apart. That he had many, many challenges. But if your parents have challenges, then your challenges don't appear to be challenges. And I don't know. But it just seems to me as though there was a lot going on in that household. But the school knew. The school knew. Why? They called in the parents, but the school did not take strong enough action. That's why I agree that the prosecutors should fault the school as well. And I also agree that in a civil case, because there's going to be civil cases, wrongful death lawsuits, the school needs to be named in it. Not just the parents, not just him, but the school as well. We have to look to the parents because on some level, even though we can't control what happens, when we know that there are these issues, when we know that my child, we all know when our children have issues. Come on now. We know we may not think that we need to take strong action, but we all know when there's something not right in general. But when that happens, and when you know there's a gun in the home, when you know that he's posting things on social media, as a parent, you have to take responsibility, particularly when people are murdered. So all of the above, but I just wanted to connect the dots with the Kyle Rittenhouse case.
But I think that their moral compass is off. That's my point, CK and Rochelle.
You are not. Let me tell you, you are not wrong. That is where we let. But we're still reacting after the fact. I
got 1 minute. It belongs to you.
Important. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. If you have to do that, where you go after the school officials, you're going to have to shut down every American public high school because these types of complaints come in all the time. They cannot react to them in a uniform way. It has to be a case-by-case basis. But again, if kids who are troubled can't get the guns, they can't kill anybody.
And we have to stop making excuses for these kids. Somebody hurt my feelings, therefore I hurt somebody else. You can't do that. You got to stop this. And their moral compasses are off. Oh, no. 2-parent household. Yeah. He had both his parents at home. His father bought a gun and shared it with him. Hey, look at that. Let's take a real cold, hard, honest look at ourselves. Kyle Rittenhouse was parented, and he was parented into that kind of behavior. Ethan Crumbley has been parented. I didn't say, well, I'm looking at the moral compasses of his parents. Dr. King said, where do we go from here? Chaos or community? We are in chaos, and that is ungodly.
30.
Think about that, everybody. Get the books, The Burden. So aptly titled, and that they lived. Seriously, everybody get the books. The Burden.
Americans and the Enduring Impact of Slavery.
Woohoo! And it's for everybody. It's for everybody. It's for everybody. Everybody. I love you, Rochelle Riley, and I love you, CK Hoffler.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, can't wait to have you back. Now go on and have some fun, girl.
I will. Thank you.
I love you. Everybody, let's talk about Jussie Smollett. What do you think about this case? No cameras. You don't really know what's going on. But we've got some people who have been in the courtroom, and they're going to tell us just what's up. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. CK Hoffler? I think we're going to have to call her. We're going to have to call her back. She had to jump off.
No, I'm here, but I got to jump off now. But I'm going to have you on mute as I just did and do my Zoom call quickly so I can hear and then jump back in because it's going to be a quick call.
Okay, just let me know so I can bring you back in. We're going to have Chelly Stanley.
Do you want me to hang up?
No.
Okay.
No. I'm just letting you know we're going to have Chelly Stanley, who's done all this magnificent research on the police officers who investigated this. They have very disturbing backgrounds. I sent that information to you.
I saw that.
Very
disturbing.
Yeah, it's very disturbing. So there's a lot that we've got to, all these officers who, first of all, remember Jussie Smollett did not want to take this to the police. And you know, most black folks do not want to involve the police in their personal business, particularly black men, because you just don't think it's going to end well. If you can handle it, you know, using some street justice, that's what you do. Is that not correct, CK? Okay.
That is correct. That is correct.
You just don't think
All
it's
right,
going to
I
end
will
well.
see y'all in a few.
Okay, absolutely.
No, because 9 times out of 10 it doesn't end well. And Jesse is from the activist family, and from Chicago, so he knows what he's saying. So I will be back.
Okay,
and
do
I will
your
be
thing.
Listening in and multitasking.
Absolutely. Okay. So everybody, thank you so much for your calls.
And
Thank
Kavanaugh's on the line.
you. Okay, Ms. Kavanaugh, how are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, one of my fellow Fox alum. How are you doing?
Yeah. Well, I'm a little tired this morning. This trial has been pretty grueling, long hours and lots of stuff going on.
And no cameras. And we're on Facebook Live, just so that you
no
know. And YouTube.
Okay.
So just so that you know, we have no downtime on this show. I think it's important for me to say. And you know, there are taboo words, and so we can't use those either. But I already know, you know, I have to say it because a couple of people slipped this week, but I still love them. But I'm so glad that you're with us, and I'm really glad that they have you, that the Smilettes have you to help guide them through this process, because boy, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah, you know, I was thinking back, and I covered my first trial at 26 in California in 1983 as a student at Northwestern. And then I started working at Fox Chicago in 1987 and covered trials for almost 25 years as a reporter, and then started a media consulting business where I've worked with a lot of lawyers and worked with them during their trials, many high profile. So I've seen a lot. But this is in a realm of its own in many ways.
Well, you know, I want you to talk about it because a lot of people, like Mark is saying that he's skeptical of both Jussie Smollett and the accusers. Robert is saying that Jussie is a Crook County independent prosecutorial and CPD overkill. Surprise, surprise. I trust neither. I think what is concerning to me, Robert and Mark, and I have to fully disclose, I have met Jussie on several occasions. I've known of his family for years. They are a fine, upstanding family, very, very involved in the community. And they have a lot of really wonderful people standing with them because Jussie has always just been an exemplary guy. That having been said, what disturbs me is to see we have a prosecutor who we elected who said, you know, I don't want to prosecute and persecute young black and brown people and give them records forever. We need to figure out another way to mete out justice. And so Kim Foxx has taken a lot of heat for this and for other cases where she has tried to, where she is really trying to deal with justice in a fair way. But I'm very concerned that there are no cameras in the courtroom, so you and I cannot see what is going on. What was unsettling, and to me, what was resettling and good for us with the Kyle Rittenhouse, as well as the McMichael and Brian cases, Karen Kavanaugh, is that you got a chance to see the sausage made. No one wants to see sausage made. You love to eat it, but you sure don't want to see all that goes into it. To see the Kyle Rittenhouse lawyer and his obvious bias was like, you were appalled. I'm trying to find out the fact that we cannot see what has been happening in this courtroom. Now you have a defense attorney who said that this man lunged at her. Come on.
I could not agree. I could not agree with you more. And I cannot believe there's not a video feed of this trial for the public to see. It seems so irresponsible for me after all that we've gone through with this case, what Jussie and his family have gone through, what the city of Chicago has gone through, what, you know, the way that the world has really looked at this case. I would think that transparency would be the number one priority. And I think everybody wants there to be a fair trial, and everybody wants to be able to judge for themselves the credibility of the various witnesses, because in the end, and I'm not saying anything no one else has said before, I mean, in the end, it's really the credibility of Jesse versus the brothers that's going to decide this. And people need to be able to see this and to judge for themselves. And they need to look at what the judge is doing in this case.
Absolutely.
And you brought up Kenosha. And that's such a
stand
prime
by.
example.
Stand by. I'm going to come up. Paul?
Yes.
I'm going to do a live read after I do the headlines. I'm going to need you to pull that and send it to me, okay?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Karen. Just, I'm always making a little sausage, but I've got Chelly Stanley. How you doing, Chelly?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on, Santita. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's always a joy. Bella Boz?
Thank you so much for having
Back in
me.
Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes, you are. Bella Boss.
Okay, fantastic. Beautiful name, beautiful name. I'm only going to keep you for a few minutes because I really want people to hear what Chelly's got to say with all of this investigating that she's done. But I thank you so much for being with us this morning, Miss Bella, and I can't wait to have you back on the show.
Appreciate you so much.
Absolutely. Stand by, please.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate, a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, coming to you from the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. Yes, we took over the airwaves for Air America, and here we are today, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and my brothers and sisters to the north, AM 950 radio in Minneapolis, St. Paul, sending them all my love today. I am Santita Jackson. We're streaming live on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and on the Santita Jackson and Friends page on Facebook, and on WCPT 820's Facebook page, and Reverend Jesse Jackson's Facebook page, and on and on and on and on it goes. And I want everybody to share. Yes, even you, Abraham, down there in Venezuela, sending you much love, my sweet. And Dave Dowling, my brother, to the north, up in Canada, and everybody sending you much love today. We're talking about the Jussie Smollett case. There are no cameras in the courtroom. We don't know what's going on, but we do know that there's something that's not quite right. So I want to talk with you about it, and I want to hear your thoughts. Because a lot of people have a lot of mixed feelings about this, and we want to kind of give you some clarity, and maybe it'll help you to clear up the fog, if you will. 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. You can text me there as well. Again, 773-763-9278. 9278. So let's get to some of these headlines so that we can get to the rest of this show. Everybody, Chicago, it's going to be warm today. Can you believe we've not had our first snow? We're not really yet. It's 47 degrees. That will be the high today. And showers, not snow, here in Chicago in December. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 44 degrees will be the high, partly cloudy. The Dow closed up 617 points yesterday. What a rebound. The NASDAQ closed up 127 points, and the S&P 500 closed up 64 points. In the NBA last night with our home teams in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and in Chicago. The Timberwolves, well, tonight they will be facing off against the Nets, and last night the Bulls were triumphant over the Knicks, 119-115. In the NFL, there was a game last night. The Cowboys, well, they had their way with the Saints, 27-17. And in the NHL, Minnesota and Chicago won. Minnesota, the Wild 5, the Devils 2, and Chicago 4, and the Capitals 3. Everybody, what are the things we need to know, everybody? What about the coronavirus? What about the coronavirus? Are you prepared to deal with the Omicron variant? Are you? Well, it turns out that they're going to change the standards for travel. Not only will you now must be tested one day in advance of your travel. Are you ready for that? Are you prepared for that? Let's talk about it, everybody. Let's get some of these headlines out the way, everybody. Let's get right to it. I want to know, everybody, what do you think about the Jussie Smollett case? What do you think? I want you to call me at 773-763-9278 here in Chicago and all over the world. Everybody's talking about the case. And as we get to it, I want to give you a little bit of something to help you keep your home, everybody. Do you have bad credit? Do you need to establish credit? Have you had a bankruptcy? Do you want to be a homeowner? Well, if you're looking to purchase a home or refinance your existing home, then you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted lender. Tom, 35, he's a trucker, has an income of $1,000 a year. He's married to Cindy, who's 34. She's a homemaker, children 4 and 6. Well, Tom and Cindy were tired of renting from a disconnected and uninterested property owner, and they wanted to purchase a home with a VA loan that Tom earned while serving the United States in our military. Well, Team Hochberg answered all of Tom and Cindy's questions and helped them secure a VA loan on their new home with no money down. With no money down, because VA loans enable veterans to purchase a home with no money down and no private mortgage insurance. Team Hochberg has done so many things like that and more. If you, like I said, if you don't have good credit, if your credit has been wrecked, if you need to establish credit, if you need to refinance your home so that you can keep your home up to code and stay there, they can help you. Indeed, we've lost 300,000 African Americans in Chicago because many people could not afford to keep up the homes that they had. Well, guess what? He wants to help you to do that so that we can stop this kind of hemorrhaging of our wealth in our community. He's helped thousands of radio listeners all over the country, like Tom and Cindy, and he can help you, everybody. He can help you to secure financing on a new home, and Team Hochberg would like to help you, but they can't help. They can help you only if you call 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or you can visit 56david.com, 56david.com, 855-56-DAVID, or 56david.com. What about the Jussie Smollett case, everybody? What about it? A lot of people have a lot of opinions about this case. And I think that a lot of the opinions we have are uninformed opinions because we've not been getting the full story. As I was looking to do research on this case, not just for this show, but just for my own information, the whole corporate media have presumed his guilt. Everything is being written that way. That's something I would urge you to look at for yourself. Because if the whole world can judge you guilty, boy, nobody is safe. That's not a safe thing. No one has investigated the investigating officers. Their backgrounds are troubling. We're not questioning why there are no cameras in the courtroom. That is troubling. We're not questioning why the trial has been taken to 7 and 8 in the evening. Who does that? Who does that? What is going on? And what happened yesterday when the defense attorney was brought to tears? She said, the judge tried to get physical with me. He lunged at me. Who has ever heard of anything like that? I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. You can text me at that number, but I've got a wonderful team who can help us to really tease all of this out. We've got Ann Kavanaugh, one of my fellow alum from Fox News. Yep, I was a political commentator there. Yep, and glad about it. And she has been a reporter with Fox News here in Chicago, but now she does public relations and media management, and we cannot wait to get her trained reporter's eye on what we are looking at. We've got Shelley Stanley, who's been on this show before. Brilliant writer, reporter, and she's written some very interesting pieces for many outlets, among them Counterpunch, that help us to look at, that help me to see and question who did the investigating and looking at the troubling backgrounds of these police officers. And we have got someone who's actually been in the courtroom, someone who does know Jussie Smollett. She is an activist, someone many of us know and love. We're so proud of this young lady. Bella Boz, talk to us. What have you seen? And why were people trying to put you on mute? What happened?
There is a very concerted effort to make sure that Black people, that people of a different political perspective, who are not just falling into this narrative that the police are unquestionably right, are unquestionably telling the truth in their report. Right? They do not want us in this courtroom.
Why do you say they don't want us in the courtroom? What did you see?
I was kicked out of the courtroom, first of all. But before I was kicked out, and not just the judge and Special Prosecutor Dan Webb, at their behest, a lieutenant and other police officers removed me from the courthouse building after Judge Lynn had been very biased on the bench, saying in a line of questioning by the defense, they were trying to establish that the interrogation of the brothers who are the key witnesses in this case, they were trying to establish that the interrogation was even in itself leaning towards homophobia and how they were asking their questions. All right, and so this is what the defense was trying to establish, and the judge is like, so what? Right? And the defense then made it known that this was very inappropriate for the judge to stay on the bench to influence the jury in that way by saying, so what? And so the defense was asking, can they meet? Can they talk? They need to figure out if they're filing a motion right now, what's going on. The judge calls a sidebar, and what next thing I know, after this sidebar, I'm being asked to leave the courtroom.
Why were you asked? Why were you asked to leave the courtroom? So no, why were you asked to leave the courtroom?
So they, the judge gave a reason, said that it was because I was sitting in the front row with the family, and he associates people in the front row with the defense team, and that we cannot talk to the media. But that's not true. You know that I'm not with the defense team. You know I'm not an attorney. You know who I am. He called me a self-proclaimed activist while he was on the bench. So he knows who I am. He knows that I'm not an attorney. So he said that I couldn't talk to the media. All right. And I absolutely can. It is my right to talk to the media. But again, the judge is abusing judicial discretion and saying who can and cannot be in his courtroom. And I knew this before I was even kicked out of the courtroom, because they didn't want to let me into the courtroom in the first place. Mm-hmm. There's a partition set up, blocking people from getting into the courtroom. There's lieutenants, there's police officers there, telling every Black person I saw go up to try to get into this courtroom that it's at capacity. That's what they told me at first. By the time that I made it into the courtroom, the Smothers family had to come out and get me and tell the guards that they were having one of their family members leave so that I can join them, because they're again saying that it's at capacity, right? So they let me in, and when I get in, it's not at capacity. There's 6 rows in the courthouse that says reserved for media. And there's no real there's no real COVID measures that are actually being followed, for them to say that, oh, this is at capacity.
Sure.
So they're making up a narrative, and again, there's not cameras in the room, so you cannot verify this. When you just tell me, and you have a partition blocking, and you have a guard there, so that I can't peek in and see for myself. When you just tell me that it's at capacity, I'm supposed to take that at face value. When I get into the room, though, I actually see that it's nothing but white news reporters in this courtroom. The jury is all white. There's one Black person on the jury. The defense team is all Black, though. Jussie and his family sitting there is like the only Black presence in this courtroom. So for me, and also I'm a columnist, I'm a writer, so I've written in favor of Kim Foxx. I've written in favor of Kim Foxx dropping these charges, and I know that this has been circulated throughout Cook County. It took people like Dan Will, took people like Judge James Lynn, So I know that it was very personal, them removing me from the courtroom. Because, have you ever heard of something like that? I cannot come back to the courthouse building.
Actually,
I cannot come back to the courthouse building for the duration of the trial.
I have, Bella. Unfortunately, it wasn't personal. You've been targeted. And I think that's why we need to talk about this, because, we have to, as our politics mature, you don't personalize things. That's something that I learned from Reverend Jackson. You are very clear that you stand for something and you are a target. And therefore, that is why on this show today, we are seeking to shine a light on this, shine a light where there is darkness. There are no cameras in this courtroom. You don't even know that someone like Bella Boz has been treated this way. I'm wondering, you have all of these empty rows for the corporate media. And that's problematic. That's problematic. Yeah. What are your final thoughts in about a minute?
I do want to liken it because you said you heard something like this, and I did say, I know that I'm targeted. I think back, you were talking about the Ahmaud Arbery trial earlier. I think back about the comments about your father, about Reverend Jesse Jackson, asking him to leave the courtroom, asking Al Sharpton to leave.
Reverend let me just give you this. He had not been in the courtroom. He had not even been down there. Reverend Sharpton had been in the courtroom, and that's what was so bizarre about all of it, right? But he didn't want black ministers there.
Yeah, so, there's this very concerted effort, but we don't get to see it again in this trial. And that's the judge's discretion to say, no, we don't want to live stream this. We have to interrogate that. Why not? Why can't we see this? You have put so much emphasis on this trial for 3 years. And now you don't want anyone to see what you are doing here. But we see how the media has already found this man guilty.
Absolutely.
We see how the corporate media, who is the only people in this courtroom, has already found this man guilty. And this is who you have reporting to us what is going on in this courtroom.
And it's shaped.
This is absolutely not a fair trial.
And it shaped the narrative. And so when I see a lot of the comments that I'm seeing on the chat line, that's why, and Bella Boz, I want to thank you for being with us today. And I hope you'll come back to the show. I want you to come back. I want you to come back, really, because I think you do a lot of great work. I want you to come back to the show. Will you?
I would love to.
Oh, I can't wait to have Bella Boz, everybody. Ann Kavanaugh, talk to me. You've been a reporter with the corporate media, but you also now you do media management. You help people with crisis management in media. What are you seeing right now?
So Okay, well, first of all, I want to make one thing clear because I am not part of the legal team.
Right.
I was retained and I'm paid by the Smollett family. That's key because the judge has asked the legal team on both sides not to talk to the media during the trial, which is fairly standard. That happens a lot. So I want to make that clear. I'm not talking for the defense team. I'm here representing the Smollett family. So I have freedom of speech here.
Oh, thank you.
So I want to make that clear. I was involved with the situation with Bella. We knew that the judge did not want the lawyers or anybody from the legal team talking to the media, so we abided by that and we respected it. And we certainly wanted to do whatever we had to do in that regard to work to abide by the judge's wishes. But in all trials, you have family, friends, supporters, people like that do talk to the media. And at 26th in California, they have an area, it's called the Pen, where all the cameras are set up and people can come and talk during the trial to the media. And it happens all the time. I mean, even in the most high-profile trials, in the Laquan McDonald trial, people could talk to the media. Nobody censored them. So on Tuesday, some of the media people wanted to talk to somebody, related to the Smollett family. And they thought Bella, who has known Jesse since 2015, they met when she was involved in the Laquan McDonald protest, and Jesse wanted to offer some support, and that's how they met. And they've been friends ever since. So I brought Bella down there during the lunch break to talk to reporters, and she did. And then suddenly we hear that there's a big issue with the judge regarding this. And I had no idea what it was, but she was kicked out. She was escorted out. I spoke with the judge just because I wanted to get the guidelines of what was going on, because I had not heard of this before. Nobody did. The reporters didn't hear of this. Nobody knew of this. And he told me that she was sitting in the front row with the family, and that he considered anybody in the front row part of the defense team, the legal team. Now, they're family members. They're not part of the legal team, but that's the way he wants to run it. So I said, okay, so if they're not sitting in the front row, they can speak to the media. And he said yes. So I thought, okay, fine. And I said, well, no one knew that, and I think, if people are going to speak with the media moving forward, I'll make sure they're not in the front row. But since that wasn't made clear to anyone, no one heard that, no one was told that, it seemed odd that, you would ban her from the court forever and punish her for something she didn't even know she was violating. And I certainly didn't know that it was a violation.
So, what's disturbing is that, he also told the witnesses not to talk to the media, which is good. I mean, that's what he should say. And I respect him for saying it. But then we found an article yesterday morning with the Daily Mail, the British tabloid, where the brothers, the witnesses, the star witnesses going into the court did say something to the media very early in the morning. Now, it wasn't a huge interview, but they did make some editorial comments, and nothing was made of that. But yet you have this young black woman who's banned from the courtroom for the rest of the trial. So where's the consistency?
Well,
That's
and where
what I
are the
wanna know.
cameras, Ann? Where are the cameras? What happened yesterday with this, with the judge? Because this allegation levels against the judge is very serious. That the judge got.
Okay, so
what happened?
This is why. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through it, and this is why we need cameras in the courtroom, because a lot of people didn't see it, myself included. And I was there, the reporters were there, the family was there, but I was busy writing notes because there was this big verbal exchange as well. So I didn't see the exact lunge. And, I'm all about being fair and honest and accurate. So I was looking down, texting as reporters were writing. So not everybody actually saw it. But it was a very aggressive exchange. And I'm going to walk you through it because I think people also need to know the context.
Okay, I've got 2 minutes.
Cross-examination is very important, right? So this attorney, Tamara Walker, was cross-examining the older brother, right? And she was making some points because what he had testified to in court yesterday was different than his grand jury testimony. For instance, he had talked about the decision to use bleach rather than gasoline, and he changed his testimony. He had also said before the grand jury that he believed that $3,500 check, which is key in this case, that Jesse had given it to them for physical training and diet work. But then he got on the stand and said, no, it wasn't for that. It was for the alleged hoax. So she's calling him on this. Then she's moving on to asking him questions about the homophobic tweet and text messages that he had put out to the world. And this is a key part of the defense. Let's be clear, and it also speaks to a motive. And there's a lot of them there. And these texts, and, the witness was trying to minimize them, saying that he was just joking with a friend. He didn't think they were problematic, but they were bad. And they would have gotten you or me or anybody else in America fired from their job because they were very bad. And she was making some points. And these are important points.
1 minute.
But then the judge broke in and he told her to move along, saying that she was getting into matters that were, in his words, collateral. So he appeared to give the impression to the jury that her questioning was off base and not important when, as I said, this is a key part of the defense. So she asked if they could have a sidebar so she could talk it out with him. She asked him several times for a sidebar, and he denied that. And that's when things started to get chaotic. The jury was removed from the room. And, they're going back and forth about this collateral thing, and we're all taking notes. And then suddenly Walker, the young attorney, the attorney, is in tears and says that the judges lunged at her. And before that, she asked for a mistrial. That's the key. She said, I want a mistrial because you're saying that this is collateral in front of the jury, and I want a mistrial. And then she said he lunged at her and was in tears. So then he seemed very angry and, said that that's not the case, that he was just merely reacting in shock, that the defense would have requested a mistrial at this point.
And hold that thought.
Everybody's okay.
Hold that thought.
Sorry, I know it's long.
No. I just have a heartbreak that I'm up against. But people need to hear this because we're not hearing this. Back with more of the Jussie Smollett case on the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes. Please, I could have talked about this for 2 hours, Ann. See, because
I'm sorry, but I think they need, because she was making some very key points and she was doing well with her cross, and suddenly he just wanted to cut it off, and then she was asking him, could we just please do a can we have a sidebar, can we discuss this, which is normal, and he just wouldn't do it.
And then, you know, I think it was very frustrating to her because she kept asking, he said no. And then she asked for a mistrial. And then are we on or not? Are we broadcasting or are we in break?
Well, actually, we're in break, but you know, as I shared with you,
Ms.
we
Wells
are
is
on
the line.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry?
So I'm just kind of reiterating. Yeah, I understand. So I'm just reiterating what I had said on the air. But I think it's important for your listeners to know the context of how this all got started, you know?
That's
And,
you know, and this show today, we're trying to give context. That's why, you know, I wanted you here. I want Shelley here because I need her to explain the backgrounds of these people here. Because there is,
right.
you know, I want people to understand when the corporate media decides to make you an enemy or when they decide to bury you, they can do that. And you need to be very careful. They did that to Dr. King in his lifetime. I know I reference Dr. King all the time, but my parents worked for him. They didn't march for him, march with him. They worked for him. My father made $75 a week. They used to have to take a collection to pay my parents' rent. Okay? Because we lived in the Leaks home. Oh, wait. You know, I'm like, hold on. My brother Jesse, Johnny, and I shared a room until I was 7. Okay?
Do you know I interviewed your dad when I was 11 years old?
Oh, my word. Really?
I wrote him a letter. I was from my grammar school newspaper on the north side. I wrote him a letter at Operation Breadbasket. I don't know if you even remember that because you're younger than me.
Not really. Because if you were in college in the 80s, I was in college in the 80s.
No, I'm old. Yeah, I'm older than you. I'm 62. And I wrote him a letter, and my dad drove me down, and he took time to do an interview with an 11-year-old.
Well, you shouldn't be surprised.
No, but that was my first big interview was your dad when I was 11.
Oh my word! Your first big get. God bless you. Yeah. That is so sweet. That is so sweet. That is so sweet. But he's a sweetheart. He really is. He really is.
Yeah.
He's a sweetheart.
So no, I just thought that was a cute thing. But,
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm happy to continue on with, you know, how it happened. And again, I'm all about being, you know, upfront. I did not see the lunch because I was looking down, texting what was going on. And
no, but you should say that because there's no need. Look, you don't need filler.
I did say it.
You don't need I don't like baby's breath in my flowers. Okay, just give me the flowers.
No, and I did say it.
You know,
and everybody, there was some confusion, but you know, obviously it was a big thing. And then I'll talk about a few other things as well. And again, I work for the Smolletts, not for the defense team.
No, that's fine. Really but I want to bring Shelley in because I want her to let people know the backgrounds of of the police, because I think people really need to understand what Jussie is up against. This is something. You think what we saw in the Ahmaud Arbery case was something. I mean, because now the prosecutor has been indicted and she's about to be tried because she told the McMichaels to leave the murder scene. And we're like, oh my gosh, that's Brunswick, Georgia. Oh, Gwynn County. No, that's Cook County. Okay. And the fact that this man was allowed to turn off the camera so we can't see anything.
Coming back in 5.
Mm-hmm. Stand by.
Well, okay.
Oh, we're coming right up. Then Shelley, I promise you I'm coming to you too. Okay.
Change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody, taking your calls, talking about the Jussie Smollett case. We're letting you know what's really happening in that courtroom. There are no cameras. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763. That's right, Effie. This has sadly been happening everywhere, and it happens to people all the time, people who don't have means. And the fact that they would completely shut us out of this case after we have had a complete bird's eye view into the Rittenhouse case and the McMichael and Bryan cases ought to make you suspicious. It ought to make you suspicious. And you ought to be asking for transparency and justice, because it's Jussie today and it's you tomorrow. Trust and believe, or someone you love. But we're getting our little Christmas thing together, our holiday thing, our holiday vittles, our food, celebrations by us. All right. Come on, girl. Chapearl, let me know what's going on. How can we get some of this great food?
Yes, Santita, thank you so much for letting me on again today. You can definitely give us a call at 708-526-4546. That's 708-526-4546. We're definitely handling your Christmas dinners, your ham, your turkey, as well as also your rough roast, your mashed potatoes, your mac and cheese, your green beans and your greens. Don't forget our Christmas cookies, as well as also our caramel cake, as well as also our banana pudding and peach cobbler. So give us a call at 708-526-4546, and we'll be happy.
Ooh.
So give us a call.
All right, everybody. Love it, love it, love it. We've been talking with Ann Kavanaugh. We were blessed to have Bella Boz on with us a little bit earlier, brilliant writer, activist. And Ann Kavanaugh is representing the Smollett family in public relations and media management. And of course, we've got attorney C.K. Hoffler with us, the past immediate president of the National Bar Association. She's also the chair of Rainbow Push. And you've seen her doing commentary on ABC, MSNBC, Court TV, all over the place on this case and others. And Shelley Stanley, before I come to you, Shelley, brilliant investigative reporter, and you were giving us the context to what happened yesterday, and people were trying to take notes, and you looked away, and then you go from a composed lawyer, this composed lawyer, and then you look up and she's crying, and she says that the judge has lunged at her
after she asked for the mistrial because he had called her line of questioning collateral. So he became angry, and this is Judge Lynn.
Yeah, but who is he? What is his background?
Well, he's been a long time Cook County judge. But let me just go on with this.
Okay.
So then, he gets upset. Everybody's upset. And this is a key part of the cross-examination that, had been brought to a halt. So then he finally brings the lawyers in the back, and then they come back after this recess. And then, he just says, tells the jury that things are, people get tense, people get upset and emotional during a trial, but let's just, move on. And then he did allow her to continue that line of questioning about the homophobic tweets that she was involved with before this whole thing started. And she had her composure going, and she was tough as nails as it went on, and she made some good points during the class. Then another defense attorney, Heather Whittle, asked to put on the record that the judge was making nasty faces when he sustained prosecutors' objections, and she said she noticed smells multiple times, and they feel that this has been going on throughout the trial, and his face is very expressive, showing his displeasure many times, and they don't think it's the proper judicial demeanor. And this has been a conversation in the courtroom among reporters and other people, covering the trial. But again, if you had the video in there, people could judge for themselves.
Yeah, but you know what, Ann? The reporters are not saying that. But the reporters are not saying that, and they should be.
Well, listen, it's, it's hard because judges rule the courtrooms in Cook County. You know that.
I do.
And they all have their different rules. And things are up to interpretation. But in fairness to the judge, too, you would think he would want the camera in the courtroom, because then if people are making allegations that he's making faces, the camera can show that he's not. So for everybody, we need this transparency in the courtroom, so the public can judge for themselves. People can judge for themselves, and that's really the only way you get truth is that. So this is a big problem that the cameras are not in this courtroom. But in any event, it's that's where we were yesterday, and I think there's just a general feeling among the Smollett family that there are, several sets of rules here, and they would just like consistency.
I do too. And Effie Rolfe, I see you heard on the news that the judge was making faces. I've heard that too, but it ought to be central to the reportage. That's central here. And that is problematic for me. We have no video record of what's going on. We don't know. And that is dangerous. Can you imagine if the Rittenhouse trial had no camera? What about Ahmaud Arbery? What?
No, it should be mandatory.
Absolutely.
I really believe it should be mandatory. And again, it's fairness for everybody. It's fairness for the defense. It's fairness for the prosecutors. It's fairness for the judge. Everybody should want that.
Absolutely.
So hopefully things will change in that regard in the future. But, getting back to one other point you made, and then I think you should talk to Shelley because
Absolutely.
she's done such great work. But, talking about, and I'm a white woman, so talking about the jury, and I think I'm a fair person. I think I have a lot of life experience, and I'm always open to listening to what other people experience. That said, there's one black juror, and this is why I think it's problematic. It's not that we're saying people are racist or people can't be fair or people can't listen to the evidence. Of course they can. Of course they can. But that said, white people don't have the same life experience that black people have.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't. We don't have that experience with police treating us a certain way for the most part. I mean, some do, but for the most part, we really don't. So it's hard for us sometimes to even understand that or to have insight into that. And that's why you need black jurors to explain in that jury room, well, yeah, this does happen. This happened to my brother, or this happened to a friend, or this does happen. This is why black people fear the police sometimes, or they don't trust the police when they're injured to go to the police. And you need that kind of insight on a jury.
Absolutely.
You need a mixture of life experiences. And again, it's not saying that people can't be fair. It's not saying that they go in there racist. I'm sure most people are good people and they want to do the right thing.
But wait a minute, Ann.
If they don't have that life experience, can't understand certain things.
That's right, Ann. You have a lot of good people who are racist. The society's filled with this. It's a racist. The racism is baked in the cake here. You have a lot of good people here, and a lot of good people are racist. They're my relatives, even. I get it. I'm over that. They are. They are. Look at me. Yeah. Look at all of us. I mean, come on. I got it. So I'm over that. You can be a good person and be a racist. What we have to do is, and we are biased, we are prejudiced, we're all those things. The question is, what do you do with the second impulse and the third impulse? Okay, because I'm over that. People keep trying to make being a racist, the litmus test on whether you are good or not. That's wrong. Because you have a lot of people who are decent and good who are racist to the bone. Period. And that's real. They're misogynistic to the bone. And that's real. You can be all of those things at one time. Shelley, Stanley, because I know, no, stay right there. No, because Shelley, I need you to let people know what you uncovered about the investigation, because a lot of us don't know. And I think I had you on the show before, but it means something else now that we're in this trial with no cameras.
Right, definitely. Yeah, and I just wanted to say thank you so much, Santita. You were the first person who really amplified the evidence that I was bringing out about the detective. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
And so, yeah, there's been so much that has come up since I was on your show last, that I just wanted to start with the fact that there are witnesses and videos that completely corroborate Jesse's account that the police have never publicly spoken about. They found this within 3 days of the attack. So there's actually video of the attack itself. This is written in the police reports. There's video of the attack itself that mysteriously cuts off just as the attack starts. And CPD explained this in their reports by saying that the motion-activated camera turned off due to insufficient motion. And obviously, we have to question that with CPD's history with tampering with video evidence, in the Laquan McDonald case and many other cases. So basically, it's described that Jesse's walking home, the suspect comes up behind him, and just at that moment, the video turns off. The second video that's written about in the police report shows the two masked men running by a guard at the Sheraton Hotel after the attack.
And CPD interviewed this guard after seeing him on film within 3 days of the attack. And he told CPD that one of the men was a white masked man, 6 feet tall, in his 20s. And the second man actually blocked his own face from the guard. So the guard told this to CPD. Also, Jesse's neighbor told CPD that she saw a white man with a rope in his pocket appearing to be waiting for something, standing outside the apartment building just before, well, it was an hour and a half before Jesse was attacked. But also I saw, in their reports, these guys were milling around the area for a long time. They were pacing up and down the street. They were sitting on a bench smoking. Like, this is all in CPD's report. So they have the guys before the attack hanging out. They have the guys coming up behind Jesse during the attack. And then they have them running away after the attack, running by a guard on camera, and running to a taxi. So the very interesting thing about all this is that CPD never mentioned any of this to the public. In fact, they told us they didn't find anything at the scene. And if they had shared this evidence with the public as it was coming out in the first 3 days after the attack, could they have arrested the Osendario brothers and threatened them with charges? It would have been absurd, if they had openly shared that they had suspects on film. They have a witness saying that they're white, 2 witnesses saying that they were white. And so, the thing about that is that this is a very interesting fact that I just wanted to bring out in my own analysis, which is that the initial investigation was excellent. They found the suspects. They interviewed witnesses they saw on film. They collected all this evidence that I just described. And then there appears to have been an internal cover-up with NCPD. Those detectives seem to have been taken off the investigation, and I never saw their names again. These are people like Detective Corfield, Detective Kaye, and people like that. They were not on the investigation. Then they brought in all these other investigators who were on the investigation going forward. So all this evidence is covered up. We don't hear about it from CPD, and they actively lie to the public saying they didn't find anything. And then the detectives that were left on the case, I added up their misconduct allegations. There's 38 detectives and supervisors. They have 560 misconduct allegations against them, filed against them by the people of Chicago, who went to the police and said, this detective did this to me. 560 allegations. And they were sued for misconduct 16 times, resulting in almost $7 million being paid to the victims. And their lawsuits against them are terrible. They have been accused of shooting innocent people and trying to cover it up, trying to force people to admit to crimes they didn't commit and attacking them, to force them to do that, evidence tampering, racism, homophobia, sexual misconduct, torture, and many other crimes. And these detectives are people who were never disciplined almost at all for any of the crimes. Like if they were, I saw one of them had a 10-day suspension for a DUI off duty, like something like that, So they were never disciplined at all. And they were in fact promoted within CPD's ranks as this was going on in their career, effectively giving them free rein to do whatever they want to innocent people in Chicago. So, I can get into like more specifics about different officers if you want, but
I'd like to, because time is really, we're going to have to do this, carry this conversation forward just a little bit after we get off the air. But also I'm going to have you all back because I think we have to really dig down and look at this case because we have not been able to see it, and Shelley and Attorney C.K. Hoffler. We've not been able to see it. I'm going to bring in Attorney Hoffler in a hot second. But what about the brothers? I mean, I think you need to explain that they had 48 hours to do what?
Right. So, they were basically arrested at the airport when they got back from Nigeria and threatened with charges themselves. And of course, this is happening in Chicago, which is the false confession capital of the country. The detectives that arrested them, when I saw their names and I know their backgrounds, I was like, ooh, it's just like.
Why did you say
would wanna
that?
be met at the airport? Because their backgrounds are, just unbelievable. They're people that you do not want to be. Like, one of them was sued for trying to force an innocent man to, admit to a crime he didn't commit, then choking him and slamming his head into the wall when he refused. Another has 27 allegations against him, including selling or possession of drugs. Another has 35 allegations against him, by the people of Chicago, and more, right? So this was the crew that arrested the brothers, take them to the police station. And the brothers actually refused to eat during their entire time during that 48 hours. That's repeatedly said in the police reports. It says in the police reports that the brothers did not trust the police. They refused to go in to go speak to the police until the last hour. And actually, the second brother, Abel, or he's also called Bola, he refused to go. His brother went in and did whatever, and apparently agreed with the police tale in this, being, threatened with charges himself. And then his brother still refused to go in. Abel still said, no, I don't want to. So the detective said, okay, well, we'll have your brother sit in with you to make you more comfortable. And that's not done. Like, that's obviously, you don't bring in two witnesses together. So they did that during the misconduct. And it's, they just are basically putting these brothers under high pressure, high stakes interrogation. And at the last minute, the brother said exactly what the police want, become their star and only witnesses, and have no charges brought up against them at all. So, we know what that is. I know a lot of people understand what that is. You become an informant for the police, telling the police the tale they want you to tell, and you don't have any charges as a result.
Very quickly, in a couple of minutes, do you see media bias here?
Definitely. I mean, I have written myself, trying to give them screenshots. Giving them screenshots from the police reports, showing them the articles, showing them the detectives' backgrounds. I've written to leftist media, independent media, corporate media, international media. Nobody wants to talk about the police in this case. And I think that, the other way you can see that there's media bias is that the media never asks the police difficult questions. They never question the police at all, and that's their job. If you have a situation where the main story is that the police say somebody is lying, you have to look into the police. And if they did if they asked the first question, the whole thing would unravel, because CPD is known for lying. CPD is under a federal court order right now because they are known for having a pattern of racist, unconstitutional behavior themselves. But supposedly in this case, they care so much about racism that they want to prove that it didn't happen, and they'll go to all these lengths to help the public and prove that there was no racism in this case, when they're known for being racist themselves, So if the media had asked any questions and put this case in context, it would have been a completely different story that they had to tell. But they were very much, in my analysis, protecting the police, protecting, people like Rahm Emanuel. And even, just very quickly, there's Donald Trump Jr. had a statement or had an article written about him on February 1st that was called, in the Mercury News, that was called, "Is Donald Trump Jr. promoting a Jussie Smollett conspiracy theory?" And that was 3 days after the attack. So he was in the beginning, so much so that they wrote an article titled that. And so the media, doesn't interrogate all of this, and in fact promotes this conspiracy theory themselves without doing their job.
And, can I chime in on, the narrative, unfortunately, was set early on, and
Absolutely.
It's stuck. And that's why narratives are so important. Eddie Johnson got out there and did this big national news conference where he said that Jussie did this just to get attention, to get more money from Fox for his contract. Now, that was patently false. Fox came out and totally disputed it, but the narrative was already
The
there.
die
and
was cast.
People could not put it past. And yesterday, at 8:00 at night, because we went so late, so it didn't make some of the news reports. But Jesse's publicist in L.A., his former publicist, Pam Sharp, got up there and gave the jury the facts. Jesse was thrilled with his contract at Fox. He started out making $25,000 an episode in 2015, and at the time of the attack, he was making a $125,000 salary per episode. So he had gotten a huge raise from Fox that he was thrilled with. His career was soaring at that point. He had film productions coming up, a Broadway play. He was directing Empire. And she also said, unlike a lot of celebrities, he really didn't like publicity. He didn't like to go to the red carpet. He didn't like to do all that stuff. And she would kind of have to push him to do certain things. He didn't want to do it. Then after the attack, if he really wanted attention, Alicia Keys had invited him to come on the Grammy. She was hosting it 2 weeks after the attack. He said no. So that was an entirely false narrative. They never checked with Fox. They never asked this. They just made it up.
Well, this is,
but it stuck with people.
But this is what they do. And given my background, I've seen it. I've got a couple of minutes, CK. Literally, it's a tight, almost 90 seconds. You've been hearing a lot. And everybody, I want you to stay with me on the Santita Jackson and Friends page and on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. I want to keep this panel with me just for about 5-10 more minutes after we get off the air. CK, what are you hearing?
Well, first of all, what I'm hearing is there is an issue or a question about the judicial conduct. Now, I just want to say this. Judges do have full discretion to run their courtrooms the way they see fit, period, in the discussion. They have immunity in a lot of cases, but when there is something that is severely prejudicing one side or the other, the judge may be doing things or saying things in front of the jury. There are things of that nature that one side or the other have to object to preserve on appeal. I am concerned that there's an allegation that a judge lunged at an attorney. That is certainly something that has to go to a different level, and I hope that it does. I am concerned when the judge does remove someone from the courtroom unless there's been obstruction. If there's obstruction within a courtroom, then the judge is obviously going to remove that person from the courtroom. That's just the way it is. And the judges do that a lot. But if there's not obstruction, judges do have the ability to impose a gag order on cases. But it's got to be applied uniformly. You can't have some people allowed to talk to the press and not others. So either it's all in or it's all out. And the fact that there is inconsistent application gives me pause and concern for any justice that Jussie Smollett may be receiving. I'm very concerned about that because in this country, we are innocent until proven guilty. And I am concerned about the composition of the jury because it doesn't reflect the demographics of the community and of the community that they're pulling.
1 minute.
That and I'm also concerned about how quickly this trial is going. From voir dire, there are so many issues in this case, from policing issues, how people feel about gay people. That's going to be very, very important. How they feel about, law enforcement, how they feel about Nigerians, how they feel about people coming. There's so many issues that I hope will raise, but when you have a day or two, or not even that, to pick a jury, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of delving into the background. And it's not uncommon for judges, unfortunately, to move a case along.
But what about running the trial? I've got about 10 seconds until 8:00 at night.
I've had that happen to me. It's not a good practice, but it does happen. And judges, if they want to move the case quickly, they will do that.
Wow. Stay right here, everybody. Going to get some closing thoughts on the other side on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and on the Santita Jackson and Friends page. You don't want to miss this. You know you are finding out some things about this Jussie Smollett case that you did not know. Ann Kavanaugh, PR, former Fox reporter, and you're doing public relations for the Smollett family. Thank you so much. Stay right here. Chelly Stanley, thank you for all of your investigative work. And Attorney C.K. Hoffler, everybody stay with me. Just want to get some closing thoughts. Thanks, everybody, for a great week. And thank you, Paul, for a great show. Stay right here, everybody. And you were trying to say something else. I'm sorry. I'm up against these hard breaks.
Oh, no, that's okay. No, I agree with what she said 100%. I think she framed it really well.
Oh, Attorney Hoffler,
and
C.K. Hoffler, yes.
Yeah, the judges do have a lot of leeway. That's true. But again, when there's inconsistent application, that's something to consider.
Well, let me ask you this. Because you brought up the fact that you're a white woman, right?
Gag order in the case.
Well, no, hold on. Because, we're seeing a whole lot these days. I think in this particular time, it's just in the zeitgeist. It's the spirit of the times, right? What are you seeing, Anne? I mean, really? Because, we all have our perspectives. Yeah, look, we all have our perspectives. I'm a black woman, but I also grew up in the civil rights movement. Right. And so I've been, Bobby Rush surrendered when he was the most wanted man in America. He surrendered at my parents' apartment. They had to put him in the back of the car in the trunk and drive him to our Saturday morning meeting so that he could surrender on stage before about 3,000 plus people. Because this is when the FBI had its own television show. This is 1969. So this is when everybody thought, this was right after Fred Hampton was killed. He was on the run. So our people, literally, our people from Breadbasket went and got him, went in the streets that night and the next day until they found him, and they brought him to my parents' apartment. Okay? Because they were going to kill him. He'll tell you that story today. So I have a certain kind of background, I mean, I've seen a lot. I knew the Chicago 7 as a child. I knew these people. So I've seen the system go way wrong, and I've seen us fight to try and make it go way correct. Let me put it that way. So I'm just saying to you, just as a white woman, because we all grow up the way we grow up, and I'm not trying to slam anyone, because all of these perspectives count. What are you seeing here?
Well, I may have grown up a little bit differently than many white people.
Okay.
My dad was active in the both my parents were active in the civil rights.
Honey, if you want to interview Reverend Jackson at 11, you got to be a little different. Okay.
No, my dad took me to civil rights marches starting at 4 years old, and he went down to Alabama and Mississippi and marched with your dad and Dr. King in Washington. So I was maybe brought up a little bit differently, and I always lived in the city. I grew up in Rogers Park, a very diverse neighborhood, went to diverse, schools. I went to Lane Tech High School. So and I was a reporter on the street for 25 years in Chicago. So I was exposed to a lot of different things. Let's put it that way. But it was disturbing to me that Bella was kicked out of the courtroom as a young black woman because she wasn't obstructing anything in the courtroom. If she was, she should have been kicked out, but she wasn't. She just went downstairs and did a short media interview, which there was nothing that the judge had said previously to keep anybody from doing interviews, except for the legal team, the lawyers, obviously. But he had asked them not to. But there was not a ban on everybody else, and there was no stipulation before that people in the first row could not do interviews. So again, if he didn't want them sitting in the first row and doing interviews, then he should have said it. Then when he did say it, I would think he would be like, well, this young woman didn't know. I didn't know. So, let's give her, we're not going to ban her from the courtroom. We're just saying, please don't do it again if you're going to sit in the first row. But to see that and then not to see that, nothing was said about people talking as they're going into the courtroom and their key witnesses, that was disturbing to me.
Shelley, what are we missing? What you all are bringing is something that these are things that we're not hearing at all.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I think, I don't know why people are having a hard time questioning the police about this case, but I think that's what we're missing. There's two parties. So Jesse's character has been blown through the mud. They put him on stand and try to bring out every bad thing he ever did or that they accuse him of doing. Like Detective Graves was on stand yesterday saying that Jesse made racist statements against Black people and white people, and Detective,
which I want to add was not in his report. Those statements that he claimed Jesse made, and they were very inflammatory towards people of dark skin, and Jesse was so upset about that, beyond upset. But that was not in his report.
That
when
is so
you
not
made
him.
these comments, you would put it in the reports, right? It wasn't in the report.
Yeah. And that detective, the other thing that I think we should mention is that the judge has said that the defense cannot bring up these detectives' misconduct allegation background in the courtroom. But if they could, they could say that detective has 20 allegations against him, including that he, in a group of black men and women, he called someone a lying MF. He said to someone else, "I'll beat your MF blank," and, quote, stereotypes by saying words to the effect of, "You must belong to a gang because you live in public housing." So he himself, in one allegation, which there's a PDF, you can read all the narrative, it was racist and threatened to attack a group of black men and women. So if they could bring that up in court, it would make the jury question this detective's statements. But because he's just up there as some benign authority figure that probably is just telling the truth because that's what they do, that's the framing of this whole case. And for some reason, people aren't willing to tear away that veneer and look at what's actually happening, and I don't know why, if people are afraid to see that or what is going on there.
The other thing, and this, I thought about this myself, and I'd like your view on this, but like Jesse, they're saying that he was upset about Trump and blah, blah, blah. Well, yes, but Jesse came from an activist family, a very well-respected family, a talented, successful family that was very involved in activism. He knew how to protest properly, if you know what I mean. He didn't have to pull a stunt. If he wanted to make a political statement, he knew how to do it in the proper way, the proper format, because he had been involved in things his whole life.
Well, also, let me say this.
Stupid stunt.
Let me say this, because I spoke with his sister Journey this week. And I thanked her for the body of work that her family collectively have done. Because they have really tried to function in the Cicely Tyson, Paul Winfield, it's a whole tradition of people who will only take roles that exalt the best of the African American experience. That is what they have always done. Even as Jussie really had to come out as gay because he is authentic and he has integrity and was playing a homosexual on television. He brought dignity to this young man and to that community.
Absolutely.
This is what they have always done. If you look at all of their work, this is what they do. Because like Dave Chappelle said, I had to stop the show because I was becoming a caricature. And you all have to understand, my parents were taken by Patrice Lumumba to Africa to help construct a new nation. So when I come home, I've got my aunts and I got my mom and my daddy to answer to. So if I am, pardon me, cooning on television, I've got a whole family that is unacceptable to them. These things are unacceptable. There's some things he's not going to do because he doesn't want to embarrass the race. Black people know that when we do anything, we're carrying our people with us. That's real. So for him to jump out and do this is just not what he would do. But for us not to hear about the backgrounds of the police officers and the backgrounds of this case, which is why I brought Shelley onto my show. When I first read your work, I went and found her. I said, no. Something, I hadn't even talked to him yet. Not about this. I said, wow, no one even knows this. Oh my goodness, this is terrible. Plus I know Chicago. And plus I know the judicial system. So, I mean, that's why I wanted you all on here today, because there's so much that we're seeing. The whole narrative has been bent against him. And I'm saying this could happen to anybody. And that to me is very dangerous.
Santita, if I could add,
yes.
It's not that this is CK. It's not that this could happen to anyone. It's that this does happen to people every day.
I stand corrected.
Every single day. Every single day. And that's why it is important. I applaud those who come forward and who push for transparency. For transparency. And I think what this also demonstrates that people need to understand how at times black lawyers are under attack by some judges when they are representing the interests that a judge may feel differently about. Black lawyers are under attack. It's not just your client. Sometimes with lawyers as counsel. And you have to fight through it, and you can still win. But I have to tell you, sometimes it is hell. That's probably not a good word to use. But I say that because not only because I've been a leader of the National Bar Association, and we have over 67,000 black lawyers, but I know I've been a lawyer for 35 years. Around the country and around the world, it is not a given that people want to hear or see you in a courtroom. It is not a given. Oftentimes, people don't want to hear or see you. We don't even need to get to the gender issue. Just focus on the race issue. So all of these things, I know as a practitioner, and I've practiced for some very, very difficult judges. I don't know if I break down and cry, but to break down and cry for a practitioner in a case like that, there is something very, very troubling that is happening. And to put hands on or to even approach in a threatening way a lawyer, if you are a judge, is deeply disturbing. Deeply disturbing. So, and also, whatever the judge's temperament is, the jury's going to know it, going to feel it, and will be persuaded by it. Trust me when I say that.
Well, and you made a great point, and this is 2021, and we're dealing with the race issue here because that's the big issue, but there is a gender issue going on here too, I think. And that was in line yesterday, and I really don't think, we can talk about that another time, but I think female lawyers of color have an even more difficult position in the courtroom.
What do you mean?
Absolutely.
I just think that, I think the female lawyers are treated differently than the male lawyers, even of color. And I think that judges are generally more dismissive of them. Mm-hmm. Not all, but in some cases, they're more dismissive of them, and they're quicker to try to discredit what they're doing with their cases. I mean, and to try to dismiss them. And again, this is 2021, and this is 2021. That's another show.
Another thing I noticed yesterday was that the judge, basically every time the defense asked a question of any witness, the prosecutors objection, almost every single question. And so the judge has to decide with every question, is that allowable? It's quite absurd. Like every question they have an objection to. So the whole defense narrative is having to try to fight their way to ask any questions.
CK,
I don't know if you want to talk about
no, because CK, what does that do? How does that make a lawyer look incompetent every time there's an objection to any question they put forth?
Well, it depends on how the jurors look at it. So sometimes jurors get very, very upset when lawyers do that. And it backfires because they're like, look, what are you afraid of them asking? What are you afraid of? But it depends on the juror's perspective. But if you have a juror that will look at a black lawyer and feel some kind of way because they are biased and have some predisposition, or look at a black woman lawyer some kind of way because they are biased and have predispositions, then when that happens, they're immediately perhaps going to jump to the conclusion, well, this lawyer is completely incompetent, because even the judge is sustaining the objections of the other side. So then it does have a very negative impact. And so the tone in the courtroom, how the judge runs the courtroom, in many respects will impact the jury. And as to how black women are perceived in the courtroom, I live, breathe, wake up, smell. Every orifice of my body is that. So you have to know how to pivot. When you're a black woman, just in general, as a professional, but particularly as a trial lawyer, you are forever pivoting, because it's not just the judge. It could be the bailiff. It could be the clerk. It depends on where you try cases. I've tried cases where I've been the only person of color in the courthouse other than one bailiff. The only person.
in the courthouse other than a bailiff who was black. And I tried a case for 7 days. And, you know, and my jury had no African Americans on it. But it was a med mal case. I won the case. I just assumed that I wouldn't win the case because I just could. The dynamics were such. And I was trying a case against 2 doctors who were white doctors like Marcus Welby, MD. So there are a lot of dynamics that happen. I will say this. Sometimes jurors fight back. They don't like that. But a lot of times it just depends on what's in the jurors' minds. And that's why when you're doing jury selection, you've got to be able to find out how they feel about certain issues. I am so very concerned about the leveling of the playing field in this case because everybody is entitled to a defense, everyone, no matter what you're being accused of. And there needs to be a leveling of the playing field. Now, if a judge kicks out a member of the press, that's one thing. That is something. It may not be proper. That might be, you know, a First Amendment issue. That's completely different. But when it comes to the laying of the evidence and giving that defendant his or her day in court, a fair trial, that's very serious because life or liberty are at stake. Jussie Smollett could be facing jail time. This is very serious. So I am concerned about the things that I am hearing. I hope, firstly, that the journalist who was kicked out of the courtroom has counsel. That's number one. The Cook County Bar has plenty of lawyers, and there are a lot of great First Amendment lawyers in Chicago. But secondly, if there's I'm sure that the young lawyer who felt that she was being attacked, or maybe there was some personal issues, physical, against her by the judge, I'm sure she is doing the things that she needs to do because that is very serious. In my 35 years, I've had some tough, very mean judges, but I've never had that would be so completely unacceptable, reprehensible, and not tolerable by me. But again, I have the experience that I have as a trial lawyer. So I hope that she does have, that she is getting or taking advantage of all the tools available to her to begin to address that issue.
I have a question for you regarding the jury. You made the great point of how important it is, but how do you feel about a judge doing the questioning and not the defense or prosecuting attorneys?
Well, in federal court, judges. What do you mean questioning? Meaning voir dire and jury selection?
Yes.
Okay, when judges ask the questions in federal court, that's what happens. In federal court, judges do the voir dire. The attorneys for both sides submit questions to the judge. The judge asks the majority of the questions. Occasionally, a federal court judge will allow a jury, the lawyers to ask questions. But this is not in federal court. Did I miss something? Is this case in federal court?
No.
I mean, I've been reading, following, commenting. This case is not in federal court, is it? Did I miss something?
Nope.
So I am not aware of, and I'll tell you something. I love Chicago. I love Cook County, but there are things that happen, and they're the place. I don't know what justification there would possibly be for a judge in state court or circuit court to do voir dire. That's why you want to be in state court versus federal court. Quite frankly, if you're a plaintiff, that's why people thought. So a lot of that's very unusual to me. Very unusual that a judge would conduct voir dire. A judge may ask some follow-up questions and all of that. That's different. But it is the lawyers that pick that ask the questions. That's the nature of voir dire. And state court, it's only in federal court where the rules are different.
Yeah. Well, no. Let me ask this question. I mean, and I'm really hoping that Jussie will be exonerated. But if he is not, does he have any recourse, CK?
Well, he can always he will, no matter what. If he's convicted on anything, probably will appeal because that's what all defendants do. And I don't, the disadvantage that I'm at is I don't have any firsthand knowledge of what's happening. So when I'm hearing people talk about what's happening in the courtroom, non-lawyers, quite frankly, usually have a better perspective than lawyers. To be very candid with you, but but for purposes of determining if there's some appealable issues and making
giving an opinion on that, I would need to hear from a lawyer what happened, what was laid, because they would be able to maybe position it from a legal standpoint. And he certainly probably has grounds for appeal, maybe on the jury instructions, maybe on the judges, maybe the defense counsel not being able to conduct voir dire. In voir dire, meaning jury selection, there are a lot of opportunities to appeal things, but you have to object contemporaneously. So if the judge doesn't allow something, you've got to be able to object. And that would usually happen outside of the, before the jury is even, the prospective jurors are even impaneled, because there are a lot of things that the judge will allow or won't allow. So I don't know if those things were objected to. I don't know how that's proceeded, but along the way, there are a lot of issues that could be appealable depending upon how the judge is ruled. If the judge has the kind of temperament that's being described, more than likely he's ruled in a way that would give rise to an appeal on some issues.
Well,
but it's not going to be in the way he runs his courtroom. I don't. That's not going to be like if a judge yells at someone. That's not going to be, or the way he runs his courtroom, unless the yelling is so prejudicial to the jury that the jury says something. Which I've been in a trial where that's happened, where the jury spoke out because they felt that the judge was so incredibly biased.
Yeah. And this just gets back to the whole thing. It's just so unfortunate that there is not a video feed of this trial, and that's something.
Oh
that
no,
we
this
really
no,
have
no,
to
no,
look
no.
at moving
And
forward.
that's criminal. This is criminal. This is criminal. This is criminal. This is criminal. And when you dig down and you find out all these pieces, this is all criminal. And this is a hijacking of someone's freedom, someone's liberties, and of justice. Period. Period. And this is criminal. And whether you are white, black, brown, yellow, red, straight, gay, trans, whatever your background, if you stand for freedom and justice, you ought to be bothered by this. You should be. Which is why I had Shelley on, more than a year ago. Which is why you all are on here today. What's happening is just shameful. And when I Googled Jussie Smollett, every single article was negative. Every single one. He's a liar. These guys wanted to get $1 million from him, and I'm sure they did. I mean, but just the way that they have crucified his character is just shameful. It's shameful. And trust me, it will happen to you. Because so many people will say, you know what? Well, Santita, what do you think really happened? Do you see what's happening here? You can't even get to what happened because of what happened. Ann, Shelley, and CK, I'm going to get some closing thoughts from you all. We could go on and on, but you know what, Ann, I promise you, and Shelley, and we'll do this again, okay? I mean, like over the next few days. You still there, Ann?
Okay.
Oh, we will, because
Yes,
I think,
I'm here.
because what we have to do is tell the whole story. And there is so much that people have not heard. There's stuff that we don't know. So I'm going to go around, do a round robin with everyone so that I can begin to wrap this up. But I promise you, and Tracy, I'm going to send you 2 links. One to the link of this show. It'll be the show without the commercials. And you can take the last hour and disseminate it. But you can also take the link from this Facebook feed and the YouTube feed and just send it out. Please, just do it. Use it, because I just don't think that there are too many places where you're going to hear this kind of information, this kind of explanation of what is happening here. Ann Kavanaugh, your thoughts?
My final thoughts are, I ask people to look at Jesse's life and his character and what he's done in his life. And is there anything that would indicate that he could be capable of what allegedly happened that night? And then I ask them to look at the other witnesses and look at their backgrounds as well, and just look and just compare. And that's all I ask. I ask that they look at the full picture, because it does come down to credibility.
Shelley, what do you want us to know?
Yeah, I mean, my final thoughts are, I just want the public to know that the judge has banned Jesse's defense team from talking about the officer's misconduct allegation histories. And that this is another very confusing point for people, that you can read an article I wrote called Jussie Smollett and the MAGA Hat That Never Was. Because the police, Jussie never reported a red hat at all. And yet the police's star evidence is the brothers buying a red hat. So it appears that they fabricated that evidence. The brothers were in their custody at that time. And the officer who found the evidence is Richard Hagan, who was sued by Laquan McDonald's family for trying to cover up his murder. So there's a lot of things that people don't know, and that's very purposeful. The police have been covering their tracks in some but not in their police reports. It's all in the police reports. All the misconduct is in the police report. So we just need to be able to look at it and to see all of the abuse of authority in this case.
Unbelievable. C.K. Hoffler, your final thoughts?
Final thoughts are we've got to register to vote and show up for jury duty. This is proof positive. We may have, I don't know what happened. I wasn't there, nor does anyone else. But Jussie Smollett deserves to have his day in court. There's been a smear campaign up until this point of extraordinary magnitude where there's not a leveling of the playing field. And we don't know what those jurors do or don't know about Jussie Smollett, but we know one thing. If they read or listened to media or corporate media, they would have heard there's nothing but negativity, Santita, as you said, about him. So they're coming in with that bias. If they don't hear, I don't know if he's going to take the stand, but if they don't hear anything that contradicts that, contravening information, then it's going to be on top of a bed of bias. And they're going to judge him based on what they know and what they hear. The police department is not on trial, but they are on trial. But it depends on how the case is being tried. Those two brothers, I'm pretty sure, can be annihilated in cross-examination, provided that the judge allows them to be annihilated. If there's an objection to every single question, what that is designed to do is to obstruct, to prevent the flow of the lawyers. But a skillful lawyer, we're used to dealing with that. You can get around it. But at some point, the judge should step in unless the lawyers are really framing the questions in the wrong way. And I think he's got a formidable legal team. So all of these things are troubling to me. And so I would say to people, show up for jury duty. Watch and elect judges who represent the ethics that you want. Elect clerk of courts who are that way. Elect prosecutors who are that way. And so and in order to elect someone, you got to vote. In order to vote, you got to register to vote. In order to serve in juries, you've got to be registered to vote and show up for jury duty and not ignore it. It is so important. In this case, is proof positive that. Look at what could happen if Jussie Smollett is innocent. And I resist saying whether he is or isn't, but I happen to believe that there's a lot of inconsistency here and he's being framed and targeted. And if that's the case, and if this jury does not receive the information it needs to acquit him, he will go to jail.
Prison.
And to prison. And that's it.
Prison.
And while the appeal is pending, to prison. And it won't be for, decades, but he's going to go to prison. And that would be a severe miscarriage of justice if he's innocent, and he deserves to present his case. And so I'm very troubled by what I'm hearing, but I'm grateful that we're hearing it. Santita, grateful to you for providing a forum where people can speak truth and feel comfortable with this. For those who've been excluded from the courtroom, that's the first. There are times every media entity has lawyers that would address that. Individuals, independent reporters and journalists may not, but there are social justice or legal organizations that would take up an issue like that. So I hope that reporter is in touch with somebody who would be able to help her address the legal issues surrounding her being targeted and being removed from the courtroom when she is not obstructed. And again, when there's obstruction, that's fair game. But when there's been no obstruction, that's different. When there's been no violation of the rules, and the rules are unevenly applied, good for some but not others, that's different. but someone needs to bring a motion to the attention of the court or do something to appeal, something like that.
Well, you know, there's the court and there's the court of public opinion, right? And so this is where we are. We're in the court of public opinion. Too many of us, as I've seen, you know, in these discussions, stop and say, okay, but was he really guilty? We're trusting an entity that frames innocent people all the time and lets warmongers go. I'm just putting it right where it is. What's up is down, what's down is up. What's in is out, what's out is in this society and in this current world order. We give Nobel Peace Prizes to people who wage war. And we bury peacemakers. Think about that. Think about that. Think about how people are framed every single day in this judicial system. Think about that. Think about it. You know, when Fred Hampton was killed, they didn't kill him as many times as they shot him in that bed. They pulled him out into the hallway. And as he moaned for help, the police looked at him and laughed, and then they shot him to death. Okay? So I think that, you know, you have a corporate media that make black and brown people and poor white people and women less smart than we are, less patriotic than we are, less than who we are on every single level. And you want to trust them? Are you serious? You don't even ask the question. I mean, hedge your bets with, well, wait a minute, what happened here? Have you asked the question, why didn't Jussie want to go and make this public? Why did he want to keep this private? Have you asked that question? Jeopardizing his entire livelihood and the livelihood of his cast members, because he was not just the star of the show. He was part of an ensemble. And when aspersion is cast upon you, it's cast upon your cast, and they could lose their jobs. Do you think he wanted to shoulder that burden? No. Jussie Smollett worked in Chicago absolutely. He worked in Chicago for several years. You didn't even know he was here. Because he went to work and he went home. That's what he did. Think, everybody. Think. Think. Chappelle Wells, who calls here,
he could have.
There's a whole lot that could have happened here. Oh, absolutely.
But he could have, you know, throughout this whole process, he could have just entered a plea, gotten a slap on the wrist, and gone on to his life and his career. He could have, you know, just said, I'm sorry, moved on, and everything would be fine. And people would forgive him. But you know what? He didn't, because that wasn't the truth. That wasn't his truth. And he's paid a big price for this. A big price.
But that's why it is our responsibility, Ann, to get the story out. Whatever happens. When they were sending my brother to prison, and yes, he was railroaded. He was. When we found out that my brother was in trouble, found out that he was bipolar, that he had fainted on the floor of the house, all kinds of things. We didn't know any of it. But when we found out, his family got involved. Well, we said, okay, well, if there's money missing or something, can we make amends? How can we pay it back? They didn't want any of the money. We said, oh, so you want him to go to prison? Got it. And my brother stopped it all. He said, I will go. Sit up here and reach out to all of my friends and make me lose my friends, because that's the game that they play. You'll get a knock on the door at 5 a.m. Everybody, all your friends all across the country. That's how the feds do it. No, he didn't do that. He said, no, I'm a man. I'll go to prison. If that's where y'all want me to go, I'm going. How about that? That's what I told Jussie. I said, if they want to send you to prison, go. And you'll come out bigger than ever if people know the truth. You got to let people know the truth. And you all need to start asking some questions. Yes, Ann? CK?
My prayer. It is my prayer. Oh, my goodness, it's my prayer. That there will be a witness, that the defense will put up witnesses. Jussie doesn't have to take the stand, but there will be witnesses that will speak about Jussie in a way that's permissible. Because, you know, you can't put up, there's certain restrictions on character evidence and all that, but that will tell the story of this formidable young man. Because this notion of the motive he had, that was about as stupid as I've heard. That was about as stupid as I've heard. They should have just not said there was no motive.
Girl, wait a minute. You're on the hottest show. You and Taraji, and I forget the other young man, and Terrence. You all are the three big stars of the show. He didn't need any more light. Terrence, you didn't need any more light. And he wasn't looking for it. Like I said, he was in Chicago, and you barely knew he was here. He went to work, and he went home. He didn't hang out. He didn't do any of that.
No, and as his publicist said, that he hated that kind of thing. And she had to push him to do things, and he was constantly fighting back because he didn't want to do it. And when I first became involved in this, when it happened, I didn't know anything. I didn't know what was true, what was false, nothing. So I called up some entertainment reporters out in L.A., and I was a big fan of Empire. I will say that. And I was always very impressed with his talent and with this great character that he created, because I really did think it was a breakthrough gay character. And it was. And Jesse gave that the humanity. But I called up some LA, entertainment reporters who cover the beat regularly. And I go, what's the deal with him? Is he one of these guys that like calls you up when he goes to the gym? Hey, photo op or whatever. They go, no, he's the opposite. He really keeps a low profile. And, even when we're on the set talking to him, he's very, very low key. That's not him. Okay. So how does somebody go from not wanting good publicity and being low key to doing something like this?
Wait a minute. When
it makes no sense.
It makes no sense. And you're not trying to anger the producer. You're not, because that's not the way, that is not the way you negotiate with the people who ran this show. He knew that.
Plus, everything was going great for him. It was going great. He was right. All his dreams, he had been working since he was 6 years old as an actor. Suddenly, all his dreams were coming true. The music, the acting, the directing, all these opportunities, everything he had worked his whole life for was suddenly happening. It was his moment. So why would he want to derail it? And yes, and he's always been involved in activism and stuff. And like we talked about, he knows how to do it the right way. His family taught him how to do it.
My question is, who wants to derail him? Because this is big.
Right.
Sorry.
And I think, and the other thing too, he already brought the greatest attention that ever seen in Hollywood of any of these types of any show, frankly, mainstream show, to the plight of gay folks in the entertainment industry and in life. That character brought greater attention because the Empire was not just a widely watched show in the United States. Throughout the world, the impact was more monumental, frankly, than any march he could have done on those issues. He was beloved. So that little whatever motive, that was just dumb and dumber. I'm sorry. We just have to call it.
It's not even believable. It's not believable.
It's not. But Santita, I've got to run, but I will say this. My final word. Today on the news, I heard all about, and I'm not saying anything bad about this, Alex Baldwin and the young woman that was shot, accidentally on the set.
You mean where he refused to take responsibility?
Right.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's been all over the news. All over the news.
Bless his heart.
Is a case. It's going to be a case. It's going to be a case. Now, ain't nobody indicted yet, but it's going to be a case, more than likely a civil case. I didn't hear that much about the shooting in Michigan. I didn't hear that much about those children who were killed, just a little bit. But I heard all about Alex Baldwin.
Wait. Hold on. Since you just mentioned that, CK, I'm sorry. I didn't hear George Stephanopoulos challenge him on, I didn't fire the weapon. Hello?
Yeah.
Hello? I didn't hear that.
But the point that I didn't hear it, but the point that I'm making is that we just have to continue to vote to truth and information and recognize that there's not a level playing field. I'm distressed as someone who's represented, African American lawyers, had the honor of doing that as president of the National Bar. I am so distressed to hear this has happened to another Black lawyer. I've already sent word to our affiliate chapter, which is the Cook, and I'm no longer president of the NBA, but I'm always a past president, to our Cook County affiliate. And there's so many extraordinary lawyers in that bar. So I just hope that a lot of these things are addressed on the level of the lawyers. But it's very interesting. No one really thinks about what it could be like, what it may possibly be like being lead trial lawyer, being on the hot seat if you're Black or if you're a woman in a high-profile case, a Black woman in a high-profile case. But that is the story of my life, and so I'm glad that there is some light being shed on this too. But I pray for justice in this case, and I pray that there's a leveling of the playing field.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say,
Please.
And the prosecutors have just closed their side. So now the defense is beginning. So now all this evidence has the opportunity to come out, the witnesses from the scene, the video evidence from the scene. So that's all still to come.
Well, I was about to say, let me go watch, but I can't.
Yeah. Well, you can. There is an Instagram page I wanted to tell you all about. That's Coalition for Jussie.
Yes.
And that has the other side. So you can definitely follow that.
Send me the link. I think somebody put that out, disseminated about the show. But I just sent to Tracy. If people want to see, obviously, the full, see this whole exchange, they can come to this page, to my YouTube page, and to my Facebook page. And I just sent Tracy the link to the show itself, so people can take that, and you all can do with it what you will. Okay.
Okay.
But I'm going to have you come back, because I think that we need to just continue to push out what, the facts of this case. Okay. I really feel very, very strongly about doing that. And Shelley can tell you that, because I had her on very, very early on. As soon as I read it, I was like, oh, okay, let's get this. Let's get this done.
Right. Yeah. And that was, amazing to speak to a Chicago audience that early, so that people know that there's more to this, you know.
But you're going to have to do it a lot. You're going to have to do it a lot. You're going to have to do it all the time. Because this is, it's just, you're just going to have to do it a lot, because that's the only way that people are going to hear this. Because you're going to have to work very hard to counter the official narrative. The official narrative has people doubting him. The official narrative has people saying, if he did something, that's on him. That's where they are. So we really, we're going to have to work very, very hard. What you said, you want me to do it? Let's talk about it, Carol Soskin. You know what? I used to do something I had to go on hiatus. But Ann and Shelley, I do something on a Monday night, maybe even on a Tuesday night. And I would like to do it maybe for an hour. Or maybe we could do it and then I can just put it out there. Where I just get you and Shelley and Bella, and CK, and just let's pull together this, and I will just put it out there and we can just disseminate it. Would you be open to that?
Oh, I probably not Monday night for me, because I'll be in court.
But on Monday night we can pre-tape it.
Tuesday would be fun. Yes.
We can pre-tape it. I'll be in touch with you, and we'll do it over the next few days, so we can put this out there. It might be, tomorrow, later today. I don't know, but I just feel an urgency. Because I'm becoming like my father. Oh my gosh.
And there's more to talk about too. We haven't even gotten into the fact that they bring in. That's another show. But yes, I would be happy to. Thank you so much.
Well, that they haven't done what?
Well, I mean, we have, there's so much to talk about, but we haven't even brought in that this is not a serious charge. We're living in a city where there are, the homicides are out of control. Let's face it. And this is not a serious charge, and yet
they bring in the most famous, acclaimed trial lawyer in Illinois, Dan Webb, and all the resources of Winston Strom to take on this case.
Unbelievable. And we know Dan Webb.
The expensive.
I know he's a good guy. But for them to bring him out, this is a big thing. And they are determined.
He's an outstanding attorney.
Yeah.
He is an outstanding attorney. But, to bring in him on something like this is...
No, this is big. That's why I've said all along, I'm like, there's something else going on here. Because they've put the full weight of the establishment on Jussie. The full weight. And something about this is not adding. It's adding up. Okay? I believe in math. I was recruited to school for that. And what's on the other side of the equal sign is true. You just don't know all of the factors that have been put on the other side of the equation. But be very clear, equations equal out. They don't lie. We just don't know all of the factors that have been put into this equation. There's something else going on here. So I love y'all.
I have to get back to work now, but thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
I love you. And you'll hear from me today, both of you. Love you. Love you all. Love you. Oh, yeah, D-Ray, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. You do it. We're going to do it. I promise you. We're going to do it. I love you. You're right. Go on, Carol. It's not kosher. Happy Hanukkah, girl. And happy birthday. Oh, love you. All right, everybody. God bless you.